Welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, a place where Milts can connect to one another to inspire, motivate, and collaborate to continue to build a strong and well-connected alumni association. I believe that Milton Hershey School rebranding is actually just getting started, and I want to be part of that journey. I think the best way to commemorate Milton and Catherine Hershey is to continue our own legacy that impacts the world as Milton Hershey so impacted us. I believe the level of extraordinary that each and every Milt carries within them is deeply underestimated, and this podcast will help in the journey to show off what Milts are really made of. I'm excited to get to know more Milts, more insight to their upbringing, and what they're doing now to build their legacy and bring value to others, and what being a Milt really means to them. Today I'm speaking with Garry Gilliam, class of 2009. Garry graduated from Penn State University with multiple degrees in business development, psychology, and advertising, which he puts to good use in his post-professional football career. As a serial entrepreneur, Garry is a prolific businessman who learned valuable business life lessons on the field that enhance his character, perspective, focus, and business acumen off the field. Using his businesses to not only complement and enhance one another, Garry also prioritizes community support through youth empowerment and mentorship. With the belief that a community is only as strong as the services, resources, and businesses which support it, Garry was determined to find ways to solve some of the biggest needs and fractures within society. It was while playing with the Seahawks that Garry first channeled his vision for a sustainable, mixed-use community ecosystem in what is now called the Bridge Eco Village in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. When complete, the Bridge Eco Village will feature solutions to many of the problems facing underserved communities, including housing, retail, co-working spaces, education opportunities, entrepreneurship incubators, urban agriculture, and sports and entertainment. With plans to expand the Bridge model across the USA and Africa, Garry recognizes that ambitious plans for success for business expansion depend on meaningful collaboration, continued personal and professional development, and the recognition that the businesses of the future must prioritize environmental, social, and economic sustainability. Incredible, to say the least, Garry, and welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast. Thank you for being my guest.
Yes. No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Sorry for the mess ups there. That was great. Big dreams, big ambitions. I love that. But let's start with, when did you first attend Milton Hershey? What year did you get there?
I went to Milton Hershey in 1999.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 8 years old.
You were 8. Wow. Okay. So 3 years after me, I got there in 96 and I was 10. So you were 8. Wow. What grade is that?
Third grade.
Third grade. Okay. I actually didn't think that you got there that early. Wow. So you were even younger than me when you got there. And where did you move from? Where did your parents reside?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh. So that's probably where you get the love for Harrisburg from, right?
That's right.
Very cool. And did you reside with both mom and dad, or you were just with mom or just with dad?
No, mom was a single mom.
Okay.
Mom and dad were never married. They broke up when I was, I think, 2 years old.
Okay.
And lived with mom. Spent a lot of time at grandma's house with the rest of my, cousins and my brother. And then ended up going to Milton Hershey, when I was 8 years old. And actually, I had no idea I was going there.
Oh, wow. So it was like a surprise?
Yeah. Like, most Milts kind of know like the exact day that they went, because like there was like a build up to it. Like, no,
Yeah.
I had no idea. Mom literally dropped me off at the playground and left.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. It's funny because I had a similar experience. My brothers had already been there for like a year, I think, or 2 years. And there was like zero talk of my sister and I going there. And I had 2 older sisters who were older, so zero talk of them going there either. And then we thought that we were just going to visit the school and see, where my brothers have been for the past 2 years. And that she did the same thing. She took me and my sister to a student home, and we played with the girls in the basement. And we thought my mom was just chit-chatting with them upstairs. And I came upstairs maybe like 2 hours later, and I'm like, hey, where's my mom? And they're like, oh no, you're staying here. And I'm like, what? So that was like not the way to do it. It's funny. I had this conversation with another Milt, and more people than you think actually had that same experience where like no one talked to them about it. They did not know they were just going to be left, like that. But I feel like parents must have thought that was the best way at that time.
I feel like, honestly, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, like one of the biggest inspirations for the bridge, which we'll get into, is really building a bridge from Milton Hershey to the real world. But what
Mm,
about the bridge from the real world into Milton Hershey? I know they tried to do that weird whatever they did up there by Camp Milton didn't
yeah.
go so well. But it doesn't have to be like a whole school, but like even just like like a class, like, you know what I'm
Something.
saying? Or like a therapy session. Like, hey, look.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I've never thought about that either because we're so focused on like the transition out and making that a little bit better. Yeah, no one has really focused on the transition in, and that is huge because I do remember like there was no transition in. Obviously we're just left there, but even after the fact there was like, unless we started acting up or getting crazy, then of course there was some mental health counseling and stuff like that offered, but zero transition in. And that is such a, I'm actually going to write that down because that is such a great point, because it is there, it's so hard to prepare for something like that, especially at such a young age, 8, 10. I think once you get older, you know, ninth, 10th grade, fine, it's a little bit easier to wrap your head around it. But wow, great solution or proposal to that. And hopefully we'll have
Yeah.
some people to talk to about that, because that's a big deal. I think that could alleviate so many of the issues, you know, some of us had transitioning and, you know,
Yeah.
maybe our entire time there. Yeah. So
No,
did your
yeah.
brother go or just you?
No, no, it was so yeah, just me. None of my
Okay.
siblings went. My cousin, who's actually, her mom is my godmom, but I just call
Okay.
her my cousin, you know. So
Yeah.
she was at the school, I want to say for maybe 2 years before I got there,
Okay.
and she was there her whole life. So she's a lifer.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness. Yeah.
and that's how, you know, the fam kind of caught wind of it. And
Okay.
mom was like, well, Harrisburg's not the best place. They're trying to skip you up a few grades. You know, you're kind of getting to that age where, you know, you might be influenced by some things. So, you know, she made the choice to put me into that school and get a better environment. And
Yeah.
as hard as it was, you know, those first few years, I'm very grateful for her making that decision,
Yeah.
especially having, you know, a daughter of my own. I can't imagine, you know what I'm saying? Like, just what she did was very,
Yeah.
I commend her for it, because I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think I could either. Definitely. Not even, you know, if it was like a paid thing and this is the most prestigious school to go to, because it is. The resources there were phenomenal. But I don't know that I could send her off to school anytime before college. You know, like I just would need to have more of that upbringing control and her in my presence. You know, regardless of the resources, I would probably just pay for resources outside of her having to be away from me. Yeah, but I commend my mom also. You know, my mom had 7 of us, so it obviously wasn't easy. We were living in Compton, California, and you know, we definitely were getting into some pretty bad things. So I think it was obviously a lifesaver, and I'm grateful, you know, for everything they did. But definitely that transition could have been a lot better. But was there like a reason only you went, not your brother?
My, I don't think there's a specific reason,
Yeah.
right? Now, as I got into the school, it might have been because he has cerebral palsy. He is
Okay.
disabled, but then again, I remember there's a gentleman that I think he was in my class or the class below, who
Uh-huh.
also had cerebral palsy, and actually my brother knew him. They had
Wow.
taken a few classes together in Harrisburg before the gentleman
Wow.
had come to the school. So maybe they had shifted the rules a bit, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like after I got there, but I know there wasn't a ton of, you know, physically disabled individuals at the school, and
Right.
I'm assuming maybe that's a part of their vetting process, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
now, could he was the first person to graduate from high school in my family.
Wow.
My brother was. So
Wow.
he handled business, you know, regardless of not
Yeah.
having the resources and opportunities that I did.
Yeah.
And he's, what, 35 now,
Yeah. So he's also,
married. Yeah, he's doing great.
wow, that's great. Good for him. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. That's difficult, you know, going through life with a disability like that. It's very hard. But
Oh,
obviously
and
he's not used it as a crutch. He's used it as, you know, a benefit. That's
and
awesome.
he's definitely by far one of my biggest inspirations to play football,
Yeah.
because he loves wrestling, and he's always wanted to do some things like that, but never got a chance to.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
and then kind of growing up, I was always the protector of the family too.
Yeah.
So anytime anybody ever made fun of him or said something, like, it was on site.
Yeah.
And I'm not somebody who fights a lot, but if you want to upset me, then
Yeah.
talk about someone disabled or someone less fortunate or something like that, right? That was me. I
Yeah.
was a kid that was going to defend those less fortunate, smaller, you know.
That's awesome. That's a great characteristic to have in you. Yeah, to not a lot of people can do that. A lot of times people will see it and still feel a certain way about it, but then not be brave enough to step up and say no, or don't do this, or protect the bullied. So that's a
I
great,
mean,
great character.
luckily I was big, so I could bully the
Yeah.
bullies, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I was small, I don't know if I would have as much guts to
That
talk to somebody
bravery.
and be like, "Hey, bro, chill out."
Yeah. 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 Stop. Yeah. So while you were in Milton Hershey, you obviously did football, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And then did you do other sports?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, came when I was 8 all the way through graduation. So I did soccer, ice hockey, swimming and diving, football, basketball, track, baseball, um, dang near almost every sport for real.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also did ballet, jazz, and tap.
Wow. How
I learned
cool.
how to play the piano, guitar, I
Good
was
for
in choir
you.
like a lot of us.
Wow.
Um,
That's great. And did
yeah.
you see all those things through? I know the problem I had before I got there, like before getting to Milton Hershey, I did zero sports. Like we were actually lucky if, we went to school sometimes, because my mom just couldn't pay for us to even be able to go sometimes. Sometimes we would just have to stay home with her because it just got too tough. So sports was very foreign to me when I got there. I was always athletic. I think naturally, physically, my body's naturally athletic, but the camaraderie of sportsmanship, the discipline, the commitment, the dedication, it just went way over my head. So I would find myself getting into all these sports and then, oh, I don't like this for some reason, I'm going to quit, and hardly seeing anything really through. I think I saw wrestling through because my brothers were wrestlers, and they got me into it. And at first they wouldn't allow the girls, and that kind of made me upset. So I wanted to like show that we were willing and able to do it. I saw swimming and diving through because I love swimming. I tried like softball and basketball and even track, and there was just no love for it. And anytime like someone would elbow me in basketball, I'd get a little too upset and get kicked off the team or something. But I just, now that I'm older, I realize it was the root of it all was that lack of commitment, the lack of understanding of the discipline and the camaraderie of team and all of that. And I think that really helps a person become so much more well-rounded in other areas of life. So for my daughter, I definitely want to start her at an early age in different sports so she gets it mentally at an early age. Yeah. Before Milton Hershey, did you do sports?
Yeah, so let's see. I'd played football for one season in Pee Wees when I was 7.
Okay.
And then I got to Milton Hershey, and they didn't have football until high school. So that was actually one of the later sports that I played. But I was always massive, right? Like in the 99th percentile since I was born, and then to this day.
Okay.
So it was tough for me actually to play sports because I was too young for the leagues that I was big enough for, but then too big for the leagues that I was young enough for.
Yes.
So I actually didn't do much like structured sports. Now, in the alleyways and in the, little sand lots and stuff between the row homes, yeah, we got it in playing, fumble rumble and things like that. But the commitment to mission,
Yeah.
I guess I'll label it that way because that's one of our sacred values at the school. That was pushed into me by mom like early because she was like, look, I didn't finish high school,
Yeah.
and no one in our family has, so you're going to. And
Yeah.
I'm not. She was like, I could care less what you're doing on the football field or basketball court, none of that stuff. But one thing you will finish is school, right? So she was on me about that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I guess as it pertains to like school, like in terms of following it through or seeing it through, I definitely, if I was on a team, I was there for the whole season. Like I didn't stop. Now I played so many different sports because I did swimming and diving for a season. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to keep doing this. Now I would have been really good at it in all honesty, and I was decent at it, but it was just, I think there was a gap between basketball and wrestling one season something like that. And I was like, let me try this, and did it. But commitment to mission is very important. And kind of to your point, the attributes that really make people successful athletes are the same attributes that make them successful entrepreneurs, businessmen, students, and what have you. And that was drilled into me by the different coaches that I had, right? And this is something that I think special to Milton Hershey School. They call it the whole child experience. And on our basketball team, we called it the whole man concept. And it was you're active year round, right? You don't necessarily have to play a sport if you're not an athlete, but please be active year round. But if you are an athlete, are you a 3-sport athlete? One. Then two, are you excelling in your academics, right? Not just like striving to get C's, but are you looking to be a distinguished honor roll, right? Like you're a good athlete, a great athlete, means you can be a great student. Two, you've got that commitment, the dedication, right? All those things. So let's apply it that way. Number three was our spiritual wellness, right? Are you involved in the religious programs, junior chapel? Are you taking care of your mental health, right? In that way, taking some of the therapy sessions, they're there. Are we using them? Right. And then number four was, that community involvement, community engagement, kind of that side of it. So those four things, like that environment at 8 years old, like I immersed myself in it, and it was just kind of what I thought was normal, that culture, those four things are very important and are still very important to me. And that's directly from the school.
That's awesome. I never even heard that they did that. And you said that was called the whole man?
So the school calls it the whole child experience.
Whole child experience. Wow. This is the first I've ever even heard of that. And I feel like that's one thing I did miss out on, was like the value of a coach. My wrestling coach was amazing. But still, that was just one coach, but the value of a coach and having multiple coaches and a coach that the longevity of that relationship. So I also feel like I missed out on that. Even the instruments, you saying that you played all these instruments is phenomenal. And I regret that, because I also started saxophone and I was like, and I quit it. And now I'm like, why did I quit it? Like I had free lessons, a free saxophone, and I just quit it. And now I'm like so regretful. I wish I knew how to play an instrument. And again, these are things I've learned. So now I have a guitar for my daughter, a piano in our house, and every potential opportunity that I have for her or she can find, I'm going to make sure she sees it through, because it's so crucial. Even till this day as an adult, I still find myself having commitment issues with certain things. And I know it's that deep rooted muscle, that I never really built up. So that's something I'm still working on in my adulthood, is to try something and stick with it.
I was going to say, look at that blessing though, for God to bestow upon you the awareness that you have something to work on and can work on it, right?
Absolutely.
To fix in this lifetime.
Yes. A lot of people go a whole lifetime, without awareness. And that's so crucial. It's a big word, big word. So leaving Milton Hershey, how was your, and you said you went to Penn State, so not too far away. You stayed in Pennsylvania. How was your transition out? Was that good for you? Did you get into college right away and hit the ground running?
Yeah. So I earned my full scholarship from Milton Hershey School, the continuing education scholarship, but I didn't use it because I had earned full scholarships to play football, basketball, baseball, and track at a few different universities around the country.
Wow.
I had partial scholarships to go to Harvard and Yale, right? I took care of my academics my whole time at Milton Hershey. It was something I prided myself on. So I had partial scholarships to like I said, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, full scholarships to places like Stanford, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, right? The big football schools.
Yeah.
But to your point, I actually had a few requirements for the university that I wanted to go to. One, it had to be fairly close to home. I had already been away from home now for 10 years. I want my family to be able to come see me play. And if I want to go home, I want to be able to go home and not be across the country or somewhere else. So that was one. Number two, I wanted my degree to mean something. Like as much as I would love to go to like Alabama, one of these massive, big football schools, like maybe there's some that the culture is not the same. Like in Ohio State, if you get a degree and you leave and go into the business world, people may not respect your degree as much because you were a football player who went to Ohio State. They probably, if you might have just pushed you through, right? The culture was a bit different, right? And then number three, I did want a chance though to make it to the NFL, because if I'm going to commit all this time and effort, my body, to this sport and this game, then I want a chance to make it to the highest level and be compensated for it. So Penn State was not too far from home. I had a great chance of making it to the NFL because they churned out a lot of players,
Yeah.
and my degree definitely would mean something, right? The thing that really locked it in were those three things, and then something that Joe Paterno called the grand experiment, right? It was kind of similar to the whole man concept that our basketball team spoke about. And what it was not only will Penn State be a top 25 football school every year and come tear you up on the football field, but we will also be graduating over 90% of our football players and our athletes will be academic All-Americans, academic All Big Ten players. It was a place where there was a culture, right? There was a standard, not just in football, but academically. And so much so, like, they checked our classes like every day.
Yeah.
You know, like, and if you were coming to that university, you knew that was the case. It wasn't, you weren't going to get pushed through your math classes. No, like, checking classes. If you need a tutor, and if you're not taking care of it, you're not playing. Like,
That's
it was,
awesome.
and it was very similar to, like I said, you know, in high school. So moving into college and being in that environment was very different than most colleges, as I realized when I left, you know, Penn State, that most guys at that level don't think the same way that we do, or that our coach did.
Right.
So I did. I went to Penn State, where I triple majored in business, advertising, and psychology. Kind of piggybacking off of my interest at Milton Hershey, which were my career explorations, which were graphic design and video production. So that was into the advertising side of it. Business is a part of everything. And then as I was taking those two, I was taking a lot of psychology classes, right? How to manage people, the psychology of light and color, like for advertising, like smells and how it triggers certain, like, first, anytime you see a commercial, just know that everything you see on there is very intentional and strategic.
Yes. Yes.
And they know, like, and so I ended up taking a bunch of psychology classes, locked in another degree there, and knocked them all out, you know, while playing football.
Awesome.
So that
speaks to your character also, that, you know, you wanted to challenge yourself to know, I'm not just going to go to an easy school where they're going to push me through, you know, because I'm a football guy. You wanted that challenge to say, no, I want to continue with my academics as I pursue this career in football, which, you know, not a lot of people will do. A lot of people will want to take the easy way out because they have that talent. But that's awesome that you were like, nope, I'm gonna take the harder route, and these are my requirements, and that's great. So good for you. Kudos to you. I'm sure your mom is extremely proud, and your brother.
Very, very much so.
And then, so when you got drafted into the NFL, was that like post call? Because I'm not the biggest sports person. I like, you know, watching like boxing and MMA and things like that. But I'm not dumb when it comes to like football, NBA, NFL, stuff like that. But I also don't know like the logistics of like when people get drafted. Or so were you still in college when you got drafted, or was that after the fact?
So in order for you to even attempt to go to the NFL, you have to declare, which means you're no longer an amateur, which means you sign an agent, and, you know, you can start to be compensated for marketing, which this might be a little bit different now because college kids can get paid. Now I'm just going to talk about what I know, and it might be a little bit different now. So we'll see, but you have to declare for the NFL, you get an agent. And then again, you're no longer an amateur, you're a professional. And what you do is, I think the top, I don't even know how many, but a lot of the top players in the country get invited to this thing called the NFL Combine, which is where all the players come and they showcase their talent, right? How fast they can run, how high they can jump, how heavy they can lift. And there's a bunch of scouts and all the NFL coaches there kind of checking you out, kind of seeing what type of player you are. They do a lot of interviews, just like getting to know you personally, your family, who you are, what your life is like, you know, because they're about to make an investment in you. Now, in most cases, like the people who get invited to the combine, like I said, are the top players in the country. And in most cases, almost everyone who gets invited to the combine will either get drafted or end up on an NFL team. Now, I didn't get invited to the combine, though, because I declared late. A huge story. I had a pretty bad injury in college that kept me out for about 2 years. So I got an extra year to play on the back end of my college career, but I had finished all my degrees and was mulling if I wanted to come back for that extra year. And then my coach, who was not Joe Paterno at the time, Joe Paterno had been fired, but Bill O'Brien was now the coach, and he had told me that he was taking his shot at the NFL. So I was like, well, I guess I'll declare, you know, too. But I declared late, so didn't get an invite to the combine, which means my trek to the NFL was going to be real steep, tough. arduous, if you will, right?
Uh-huh.
But I did have another opportunity because I was going to Penn State, and they have, if you don't get invited to the combine, right? Because I mean, not everybody's going to perform great on that day, right? You may not run the fastest or jump the highest, so like it won't necessarily be the one day that determines everything.
Yeah.
If you're a top player and if you're in a top college, because now they have these things called pro days that the scouts now come to different universities, right? Like Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Stanford. They go to those universities and the guys do the drills again.
Yeah.
Now, guys that don't get invited to the combine, this is their first opportunity. So that I was one of those guys.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, well, I have an opportunity to go execute at this pro day. So I did, and before the pro, so season ended about, I want to say about November. And I ended, I think the combine is normally in like January or February, something like that. So I didn't declare until I think late December, early January, possibly.
Wow.
But our pro day, luckily, was in April. So I had about 4 months to really train and lock in. I could see, how fast some people were running, how heavy they were lifting. I could kind of set my, all right, bet that's what I'm shooting for during my training. If I can hit that often, that means I can go perform that and hopefully do well. So anyway, I ended up going out to California, linked up with a nutritionist, a doctor, a chiropractor, trainers. And in just 3 weeks of me training with all those people, in just 3 weeks, I ended up losing 19 pounds of fat and gained 21 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
In 3 weeks. Like
incredible.
Insane. Like it was wild. Anyway, long story short, I was putting in a lot of time, like working out 3 times a day, 6 days a week, full recovery sessions, cryotherapy, massages, deep tissue, acupuncture, like all of it, right? Taking full care of the body to make sure that I gave myself the best opportunity to be a professional. And then pro day comes and I went and handled business, put up some of the best numbers across the country in my position, and a bunch of coaches are like, wait, who is this guy? Like, oh, he's a junior? Wait, what? And I had actually just switched positions too.
Yeah. Wow.
It was going to be a long shot to make it to the NFL, to say the least, right? Even after putting up those great numbers, coaches are like, you have the intangibles, but you don't have the experience, and we don't really want to pay you for your learning curve you're about to have, right? I'm like, that's fine, if somebody hopefully will take an opportunity, and I think they'll be very happy with it. So anyway, the draft comes, and the way the draft works is it's in, like, I guess they've been moving it, but when I was getting drafted, it was in New York. So the top, like, I want to say 60 to 70 players get invited to the draft because they're expecting to go in the first round. Right now, each round, I'm gonna give you some details. Each round, there's 7 rounds. And there's 32 picks in each round, right? 1 for each team.
Got it. Okay. So
now
picks each round. Okay.
So that equals, I think, 256 picks.
Yeah.
Right. Those guys get drafted 1 through 7, 32 picks. Now, I won't get into details of it, but so the first round comes, right? These are obviously the best players that are getting drafted. And there's a few players at the same position that I play, and they're putting up, like, they show their numbers too, like, from the combine and things like that. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, like, I'm faster than him, I'm stronger than him, I can jump further than him. Like, all right, well, shoot, where's my phone at? I should be getting a call too. Like, wait, they like guys like me. Cool.
Right.
Anyway, so first round goes by, I do not get a phone call. All right, second round, third round, fourth round, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round comes, and I get a phone call, right? But it's from a team who doesn't have any more draft picks.
Okay.
And they're like, hey, Gary, you're high on our priority free agent list. Do you want to come to our mini camp? And I'm like, yo, like, the draft is still on.
Yeah.
There's still teams to be like, wait, yeah, I guess, but I'm getting drafted. Like, don't talk. I'm not talking about it. And the reason I was thinking like that was because the very last pick in the draft was my former college coach, Bill O'Brien, right? He left to the NFL and he was the head coach of the Texans. So I'm like, if nothing else, hopefully, my man's got me, right? So 7th round comes, 7th round goes.
Wow.
I did not get drafted to the NFL. No, I was not drafted. So the task at hand got a bit harder. I had to go to rookie mini camps, training camps, and fight for my life, right? And I'm a guy who's undrafted, who just switched positions, doesn't have much experience. So again, the chances of making a team are not the highest. To make matters worse or better, I guess, depending on how you look at it, I got to choose what team I wanted to go try out for, right? So kind of like coming out of high school, going to college, I had a few requirements.
Yeah.
Right? Like kind of when I was going to Penn State. So for the NFL, right, I wanted a team that had a chance to win the Super Bowl, obviously.
Yeah.
There was no requirement for how close to home. Like at this point, I was like, all right, G, they trying to leave the nest. Let's go be great, right? But I didn't want to go to a team that needed me to start right away.
Okay.
Right. Again, I just switched positions. I still got to learn. I can't be going to a team that needs me to start and I go out there and hurt myself or get the quarterback hurt because I didn't block somebody and ruin my career, right? Who knows, right? So I got to go somewhere where like I can be behind some people so I can learn. And there's teams calling like, hey, like you have an opportunity to start. And I'm like, man, I'm good. And then like there also need to be like, again, like this culture beyond just looking at us as football players, like look at me as a person. Like ask me about who I am and what I've been through, right? Some of those things. And there was a great team that did all those things. Right. And it was the Seattle Seahawks. Who had just won the Super Bowl, which means they definitely didn't need a guy like me who was undrafted, but they have the opportunity to go. So I like that, but they don't need me, which is great because I want to learn. And they had like undrafted players were extremely successful in Seattle, right? Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse. I mean, Russell Wilson was a pretty late round draft pick. So was Richard Sherman. So like they give guys opportunities to play, to learn, to grow, to become who they are. And they look for what they call gritty players, right? Players that have grit, that have been through things, that have had tough lives, right? And they're like, we like you for who you are. And I'm like, all right, I'm cool. I like that. But everyone else, friends, family, mom, they're looking at me like, what? You're not finna make that team. Like, good luck. Good. Happy you got your degrees, right? I'm glad you got your backup plan, right? That's what everybody always like, backup plan. Like, no,
right.
Get both. Let's go, right? So, anyway, went to Seattle, and we had our first rookie mini camp, which is just a bunch of the rookies, literally all trying to get an invite back for training camp. And it's all the drafted guys, your first rounds through seventh rounds, and then there's other guys that are undrafted and other people who are just kind of practice players that you go against. And I'm out there just like a deer in headlights. I'm just like across the country by myself, don't know what's going on, just like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. And looking back on those first couple practices, they definitely should cut me. Like it was bad. Like I don't think I blocked one person. Like I was on the ground the whole time. Like it was bad. But one thing they saw, which was one thing actually that Coach Geyer from Milton Hershey had taught me, was I had a mentality that every day I was going to get just a little bit better. Right, even just a little bit better. Right, if my hands today were an inch away, tomorrow they're going to be right on, right? So like that was my mentality, and they saw it. I came out before practice every single day and worked on something. Like, hey, coach, is it my feet today? Is it my set? Is it my get off? Is it my pad level? Like, is it my target point? What is it that you want me to work on? And I'm gonna work on just that, right? Like if you want me to work on my hands gonna be great today, right? But my feet will probably be messed up. My assignment might be messed up. My alignment might be messed up. But just I'm a stack these days. I got you, right? And they saw it, and they worked with me, before practice. Then every day after practice too, I'm asking for extra drills, right? I'm coachable, I'm moldable, and I have a mindset that I'm going to get a little bit better every single day, right? And that's what I did. I controlled what I could control, which was that mindset. And they liked it. And at the end of the day, well, once training camp had finished, I beat out all pro tackles. I beat out 10-year veterans. I beat out people who were on the team the year before. Young little old G from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, went to Milton Hershey School, who has only ever had one other NFL player, Joe Sensor, from like the 70s or 80s or something. So not a good chance of making it. Go to Penn State, miss half my college career with a pretty bad injury. ACL, MCL, meniscus, patella, staph infection, my bone marrow, like I almost died. Like it was a whole ordeal. Then switch positions. Coach gets fired. Go to the team who just won the Super Bowl. That's why my mantra is perseverance through adversity. I'm a true believer that a skilled sailor is not made on calm waters.
Yes, absolutely.
Attack those adversities head on, and you'll be a better person on the other side of it.
Yes, that's so right. Yeah, and all those things were put in your way on purpose just to keep you getting better. And the fact that you had that non-quit mentality, like it doesn't matter, the first few days were terrible, like I'm just going to keep working on me and make it happen. And then showing up before and after, not a lot of people choose to do that and say like little by little, inch by inch, I'll end up perfecting it all, instead of like getting overwhelmed by the whole thing and like, oh, I'm a failure, oh, this isn't going to work, oh, problem after problem. Yeah, that's taking like those bite-sized pieces of like, let me conquer this, then this, then this, then this. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
That's,
I'd say that mindset definitely was hammered in through my injury, right?
yeah.
Like it was one injury that I had 5 different surgeries
Wow.
over a span of 2 years. And every time I got a surgery, I had to start my rehab back over. So something that I would lock onto were kind of like these mini victories. Like if, today I'm doing a quad extension with 50 pounds and tomorrow I'm doing it with 52.5 pounds,
Yeah.
that's a victory.
Yeah,
I went up and I made those mental notes. Like that's what kept me going from day to day. Like, yeah, I know I want to go back on the football field and run and hit and do all those things, but
yeah.
this is the task at hand right here. So let me do the perfect quad extension right now.
So good. Yeah, that is so good. And those little small victories like continues to build confidence, instead of saying like, oh, I can't do it, let me try 10 more pounds. Smaller little victories, accomplishments build your confidence and like that mentality over time. Yeah, that's so good. So the
Yeah. And
NFL, when you
I
go,
would, yeah. Now I was going to say, to your point, that is because people would always ask, like, would you get nervous? Like, especially when you came back from your injury, especially being out for so long. I mean, that is one of the biggest things is the mental side of the injury is having the confidence in your rehab and your recovery. And I made, like I said, those mental notes and even physical notes, like writing them down. Like I saw, like, dude, like I was single leg squatting 315 pounds
yeah,
without an ACL. So
wow.
like when I got my ACL, and I'm like, no, G, you can block that guy, you can throw him. Like he probably wasn't doing one-legged squats without an ACL with 315 pounds. Like, bro, you ready? Go ahead, handle business, right? So like making that mental note for those small victories helps when you're out there ready to perform, right? It gives you the confidence
Yes.
and the competence to go be successful.
Absolutely. Because anything really starts with belief. Like you can't go into anything not believing that you can actually achieve it. Like nothing, whether it's a business, a job, a relationship, life in general. If you don't have that little tiny bit of belief, it doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to be like, I could do anything, but just a little, even things like I talk to some people about like mental health. If you don't have the belief that therapy can help you, then you will not pursue it. And even if you did pursue it, you're not going to pursue it fully because you in the back of your mind actually believe that it's not going to help. So it's a little, all you need is just a drop of belief, and like it could catapult. It's just something, either the universe or us not quitting, knowing even if it's just a drop of belief that something might come of this. Yeah, that's so. And you probably needed that injury to help you build, like, if I could do this while I was injured this way, then absolutely I have the belief that I could do this, now that my ACL is back.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
exactly.
Yeah. And how long were you in the NFL?
5 years.
Okay. And that,
Average NFL career is 2.5 years.
wow,
So twice the average career.
that's the average career in the NFL. I did not know that. That is a small, tiny average of time. That's crazy. Is that because of like injuries and like what causes it to be that short? It's probably
No,
so.
I'll give you some tea. I'll give you some tea. It's more on the business side of football, actually.
Okay.
So check this out, right? So there's these things called vested seasons, meaning you have an accredited season, meaning you played or you were active on a roster for 3 games, right? Now this is important because when you hit 3 years and 3 games, you become fully vested, which means you have access to the pension, right? You have access to healthcare, after you're done playing. You have access to capital accumulation plans, different 401k match levels, right? Like a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money coming
Exactly.
from the NFL, right? So no coincidence that happens at 3 years and 3 games, but the average NFL career is 2.5 years.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah.
That now the more politically correct, I guess you could say, yeah, injuries and turnover. Nah.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, it's a systematic thing, purposely. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I watched, and it's probably the most I've gotten into football and all of that. I watched the documentary on, I forget his name, the guy Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez.
Hernandez. I watched that document. I love documentaries, and especially if it has to do with crime, I love it even more. But in general, I just love documentaries and biographies. But just seeing the culture that they were talking about in Florida. I think he was in like Florida State or something like that.
I don't know where he went to college. I don't know, but he played for the Patriots.
For the Patriots, yeah. And they were like just talking about the culture of how, what you said earlier, care about me as a person, not me as just a player and what I can do for you and the career of the NFL or this team, but care for me as a player. And they alluded to a lot of that in that documentary, was like, how much did they care about this guy as a person to have him, going through all the things he was going through and no one really doing anything about it, like intervening in a healthy, proper way, instead of just saying, keep playing, like you're phenomenal and you're making these wins for us. But for a fact, he has all these personal problems happening. Like, was there any sort of intervention there to help him? Like you said, the whole man thing, like, obviously it was lacking there, and there was a lot of cover-ups, obviously, to show later on that there was like zero intervention on the personal side. But that documentary showed, like, wow, that the NFL is just like any other huge entity of people, that it's a money-making machine, essentially, is what it really comes down to. In the end, it's a money-making machine. But it's the coaches, it's the people in between that can change that culture to make it so much more. But that is so interesting. That part, wow. No one has ever, informed me of anything like that or enlightened me to that. And that's incredible. And I hope that.
And now the NFL, when it pertains to some of those resources, they're going to do just enough to cover their tail, if there was ever a lawsuit or something, right? So we've got, like, there's therapists that are in the building all the time. Sports psychologists, like, I use mine a lot.
Yeah.
He was here in Seattle, Michael Gervais.
Yeah.
Dude was working with like top athletes and champions across a bunch of different sports and stuff. So I'm like, whether I need therapy or not, I'm just trying to get in close proximity to some of this information. Like, that's how I looked at things, right? So, and plus I had a psychology degree, so I understand, like, the significance of psychology in your performance. Like, it's paramount. But so point is, though, NFL offers, financial literacy opportunities, mental health resources, a lot, like a lot of different things. Now it's up to the player, though, to do it right, or his team around him to realize that those opportunities exist within the NFL, so that he leverages them in the proper way.
Yes.
But then, kind of to your point, though, like, if the person themselves doesn't want to do the work, no one else can do it for you.
Right.
So if you do need some of those mental health resources, and they're there, but you don't think you need the help, then you won't go get it, But we definitely we got to normalize, like, therapy. Like, it can't have this negative connotation to it, like, oh, you're going to go see the shrink. You know what I'm saying?
Especially men, I think it's like that worldwide, I think, but with men in general, it's even more like, oh, you need therapy. Oh, it's like you must be a weaker man or something that, you're going into therapy, as if, like, men don't have mental health needs too, and I think that plays even more. It's harder, I think, for men than it is for women. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. As a Black man in America, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of weight, especially one who, has a family and trying to support them, regardless of what your socioeconomic status is. there's a lot that weighs on the mind, right? To be the provider and the protector, when you haven't been given the proper resources or even shown the blueprint on how to do so.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot, and it takes men talking to men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's very important, and that's men have been strategically removed from our communities.
Mm.
You know, whether it be through incarceration or death, or, you know, whatever else has taken men out of the home, out
Yeah.
of our communities, to grow into the leaders that they could one day be.
Yeah.
You know, they can't. It's a systemic issue, right? Strategically done again,
Absolutely.
but can also be strategically undone, or intentionally undone, I should say.
Yes, absolutely. Intentionally undone. Yeah. And more light awareness, promotion of this. So more and more people see it and are like, oh, wow, then maybe it can be for me too. A lot of times people just even believe I'm not good enough for this, or, oh, it's for them, it's not for me. No, it's for everybody. And some people just need that encouragement. Like, yes, it's for you too. This doesn't exclude you for by any means. Yeah, and I'd like to do more of that for Milton Hershey alumni, is to provide more mental health resources, opportunities, connections. We did that mental health webinar where I got 4 panelists, all Milt graduates that are all certified licensed therapists, to be on my panel and to answer questions around the certain topics on mental health. But we need even more of that. And that alone created such traction in Milts. And now I'm seeing all these Milts, talk more. One second, maybe talk more mental health, see like, oh my God, that person's a therapist. I didn't even know, because like no one's talking about it, but it's becoming trendy. Mental health in general, therapy, life coaching, all of those things are becoming more trendy. So obviously trends help with everything. Hopefully it stays trendy, because it is helping with that stigma. It's cultural too. Like my mom till this day, jokes or gets weirded out when I say, yeah, I'm looking for a new therapist, or, oh, I have a therapy appointment today, because she's hardcore, Arab Muslim lady that does not believe in any form of therapy whatsoever. You do not put out your dirty laundry for anyone. How can they help you? You help yourself, kind of thing. She just doesn't get it. So much of it is still cultural, generational, older people still don't believe that it's even a thing. So
I
again,
mean, it does. It needs to be, therapy needs like a PR advertising campaign to kind of rebrand it. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like the whole got milk thing, like, oh, athletes drink milk, but like in reality, milk leaches calcium from your bones, like some crazy stuff.
yeah,
They just advertised it very well, right?
yeah,
And I think like people need to realize the difference between your brain and your mind,
yeah,
right? Like, if your brain is the vehicle, right? Your mind is kind of the software, and the software needs updated. It needs to be rebooted. It needs to be tuned up, right? And that's what you take. Like, you're not going to try and take care of your car by yourself. You're going to take it to a mechanic. Like, same type of thing. Like, you got to look at your body in that way. Like,
right.
bro, just go. It's all right. Go. It's cool. Just go talk. And if our communities were set up in the proper way and our families were set up in the proper way, you wouldn't necessarily have to go, to your mom's point, have to go outside of your family or outside of your circle to talk about these things. But those types of family structures haven't even been set up. Like, I don't know, who am I supposed to go to talk to my family if I have an issue? I don't
Right.
know. I'm keeping it into myself. I'm getting old, and and now I'm passing that on to my kids, to think that that's how we take care of mental issues, is not to take care of them and not to talk about them,
Yeah,
which is not the case. So then we get to to where we're at with this mental health crises,
yeah,
and then you add the accelerator of social media onto it,
yeah.
and then we have diseases of despair, of alcohol use, drug use, suicide. A lot of those things have been increasing tremendously.
Down the totem, like it's going to keep affecting the younger and younger and younger generations. And we have to battle it head on, and as hard and as fast as the reverse side is battling it.
And what therapists do, though, like, some people go there and think that the therapist is going to be like, yeah, here's the answer. Like, no, they're going to help you help yourself, right? Like, it's the self-talk, the mindset, and it's even as powerful as this, right? Like, we'll go in a little rabbit hole here, like the whole like kind of metaphysics of like, okay, here we go. We'll track it back this way. Our body is anywhere from 75% to 80% water.
Yeah.
Right? We have the ability to affect the structure of water with our words, right? Like people have seen these studies of like when you're growing plants and you play like classical music or you play like rock music, right? Like they'll grow a different way. There's also been other studies of like rice fermenting, right? And you say a certain thing to the rice, like I love you, rice, or I hate you, rice, or not say anything, the rice will ferment at different levels. And it's because of the structure of the water. Like we as humans have the ability to change the structure of water, which then allows other things to grow in a different way. Right. So again, if we ourselves are 75 to 80% water and we don't have good self-talk or self-thought, what do you think the outcome is going to be in your life?
Yes.
It's the same thing. We are that plant. So you like the therapist is helping you with your self-talk and your self-thoughts and some of those things. So your reality that you're creating from this inward thought is what you want it to be.
Right.
Because if you don't have that taken care of, if your vehicle is not tuned the proper way, then your reality won't be either. And you'd be constant friction, you know? So if people could hear that and like be like water, you know what I'm saying? Like Bruce Lee would say, you feel me? Like, but it's your thoughts do control your reality, like the law of manifestation, or law of attraction and manifestation and prayer, like even like praying over your food, like, you know, God, you know, protect me from this food and give me the nourishment. Like whether you're praying to a God or manifesting, if you're saying it, the food is the water within the food is literally changing. Like people don't understand the power of their words and their thoughts. And it's on a science level too. Like,
it's our brain. Our brain can absolutely, literally, people have survived cancer just by what they're telling themselves, that they will survive this, they can survive this, and not feeling like a victim. Oh, this cancer is going to take over, I'm going to die. Literally, there have been studies where people have survived cancer mainly because of the way that they viewed it, their perspective on it, and how they were living while they had cancer. I have a book that by Shad Homestetter that talks about self-talk and all of those things. And by reading that book, I was like, oh my goodness, I got to start talking better to myself. Like, no more this, you're so stupid, or why are you thinking that, or how can you be this? None of that. Like, I'm not worthy, or, you know, the feeling of inferiority and things like that. It's all in our brain. And our brain, just depending on what you feed it, externally and internally, it will just go to work believing whatever it is you're putting into it. Like, that's what it does. It'll say, okay, you tell me this, I'm going to start to work on this. You know, you say you're stupid, I'm going to start believing I'm stupid. And that's what it's going to generate. Yeah.
I mean, shoot, it goes deep. Like you said, inputs produce the outputs.
Yeah.
But man, I go down another rabbit hole here a little bit. Like you are what you eat, right? Which, you know, we could talk about cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, some of those things, but let's look at the other side of it, right? The hormone side of it. Hormones are the instructions for your body, right? That's what, like, that's how your body, like, you're just a bag of flesh until hormones come in and tell you what to do, how to feel.
Yes.
Right. Some of those things. So when we're eating certain things, right? Like I said, let's get out the physical ailments that come from eating certain things, and let's look at the mental health side of those things. You can cook out salmonella and bacteria and then viruses and some of those things, but you can't cook out hormones within the food that you eat. Right. So back in the day when we had our own farms, right, and we raised our own cows and our own chickens and our own, you know, all those things, they had a lot of space and they were living a glorious life, living the life that they're supposed to live. And then, you know, we pray over them, have a ritual if you're Native American, wherever the case is, right, and you eat your food. Right. Nowadays it's not the case, right? Like the steak that you're eating from the store, that cow may have never even seen light. Right. Or never didn't interact in a field, or like, so if you think, okay, let's again take out the salmonella, some of the mad cow disease, and look at the hormones that you can't cook out.
Right.
That means you're eating those hormones. Now, those messengers, right? Remember the things that tell you what to think and what to feel is being influenced by what you just put in your mouth.
Right.
And you had no idea.
And you know what I was thinking that whole time that you were speaking was like the hormones that they inject but I was not even thinking of the environment that these animals, that is so powerful. Actually, I can't even believe that. I've never even heard of the environmental part. Maybe I have, and I just never sank, but I feel like if I've heard that before, because that's just last night, which is so funny. I was taking Zamina out to go eat, and I'm on the freeway, and right in front of me is this 14-foot truck, and there's just cages and cages and cages of chicken, and they are so, like, they are all on each other, on top of each other. And I just saw the back of the truck because I was in the back, I was behind it. And then I started to exit off. So then I saw the whole 14-foot. And what I saw in the back was all throughout. The entire 14-foot truck was just full of these tiles of freaking chicken. And you couldn't even count how many chickens were in each little thing. And on top of that, it's like 30 degrees outside, and they're driving on a freeway with nothing enclosed, and they're all in. My daughter saw, and she's like, poor chickens, and she's 4, and could already see that this is not a good environment for these chickens, and she doesn't know any better. That, yeah.
So peep this though, right? So that's releasing, again, you know, we're not talking about the stuff they inject to make them grow enormous, which that itself has an issue. But let's talk about the natural hormones, right?
Yes.
The adrenaline and the cortisol, right?
My
Which
God.
those two things for us as humans are direct correlations to stress.
Wow. That is
so your life is already hard. Trust, to be a human in 2021 is already hard, let alone now taking on the life of the animal you just ate, and you have no idea what life they had. Wow. Now you got thoughts and feelings, and you know, menstrual cycle was thrown off, like all types of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it is
incredible. I've never even thought about that affecting their hormone level and affecting our hormone level, because it's absolutely true. Even they say, like, you know, our DNA, we have our DNA, and then we also have like DNA that came from 3 generations ago, memories that can come from 3 generations ago, or a trauma from an instance that happened 3 generations from yours that is somehow affecting you physically or spiritually or emotionally, that you're not even aware of, because it's energy. I strongly believe energy is real. It absolutely is a real living thing. And we have the power to control it, or not control it fully, but affect it towards us. Yeah, that's so great. I'm totally going to talk about that more, because, you know, I don't think anybody really realizes it's not just about, oh, I'm buying organic. You know, organic can still mean they're not injecting it with anything, but it still means they're on that 14-foot truck, stressed, never seen light before. Unbelievable.
Even like, you know, how they got like grass-fed beef, like the requirements to be considered grass-fed, literally, like, you can slide them some grass inside of a warehouse.
Right. Or pellets that came from grass, and they call it grass because it's a pellet that came from grass at some point. Yeah.
And again, this isn't me talking about how bad cholesterol is for your heart and diabetes and cancer and some of those things. This is on the mental health side of it and the hormonal side of it. You know, so that's why I'm completely vegan, to give a disclaimer. But the last thing that I had kind of eliminated was chicken. Yeah. And I saw the crazy correlation to my mental health, right? Like before football games, and this is every NFL team. Yeah. The night before a football game, we have a huge spread of food. Like you can get fried chicken and French fries. You can also go the healthy way and get the roasted vegetables and cookies and ice cream, like everything you want, you can get, right? Yeah. And I was an offensive lineman, so I'm cool to be a bit heavier on game day. So nights before games, I'm loading up on the fried chicken and the ranch and the fries and the ice cream and cookies, like going in. Yeah. And then kind of as I was doing my transition to being completely plant-based while I was still playing, again, the chicken was the last thing, and I wasn't seeing like physical issues with it. So I was like, well, let me do like a little, elimination type thing. Let me take chicken away, bring chicken back, and kind of see what happens to my body. It wasn't anything physical, it was more mental. Wow. Right? Like, so think about chickens themselves as animals. They're already kind of skittish creatures. Yeah. So they're probably releasing lots of cortisol and adrenaline already. Let alone the way, right, that they're transported and slaughtered and the life they live. So I eliminated and I for a couple weeks, and I've got like, games I'm preparing for and I'm playing in, and going into the game, I feel great, like calm, cool, collected, like ready to go. I'm like, all right, well, let's, bring chicken back in and see what happens. So I bring the fried chicken back in the night before a game. And lo and behold, the next day, like a little bit more nervous and like kind of jittery. And like, I'm to the point where I'm very conscious and aware of what's going on and how my body's reacting. So I'm like, that's crazy. That's like, I literally like heart pounding a bit more, like it's like, oh snap. So completely eliminated it, and just like thinking more clearly, obviously body recovering better, like stronger, faster, like again, like whoever marketed meat and protein, as protein as coming only from meat, they did a phenomenal job, but that's not the case at all. And
it's so funny how they condition us over time with all this belief and the milk thing. Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah, that's marketing and advertising. It's literally just like you said, it's all psychology. It's all psychology. And now we have to do the work of like unlearning it and then relearning something brand new. Yeah. Wow.
Easier said than done too, because there's those, to your point, those cultural, I guess, just anchors.
Yeah.
Like I was told by my doctor that I had high cholesterol because I was Black.
Yes.
And I had looked into it, right? It wasn't because my skin's a bit darker and I got some more melanin. No, it's because culturally I'm Black. Right? Like Uncle Harold dies and we have his funeral, right? He died from, heart attack, heart disease or something. And we're right there at his funeral eating fried chicken, mac and cheese, and collard greens. I got tons of butter and stuff in it. Knowing dang well, maybe not knowing, but we should be getting there, that you can make those same things plant-based.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and it tastes just as good, if not better, and you don't feel like
so
the
heavy,
worst person in the world after.
Right? So, clouded. Yeah. Wow.
And this is what I challenge people to do, right? Not everybody can necessarily go full vegan, or do they have access to do so? And it's not even best for everybody's blood type or body types. Now, I do know eating meat 3 times a day, every day, also is not good.
Yes.
So just, do less. That's, do a meatless Monday, or how I transitioned is I knocked meat and dairy out of my breakfast.
Yeah.
Did that for a while and then did lunch.
Yeah.
Right? And then did dinner and then brought stuff back in. Like, I'm not going to take face value for any articles or anything that I read, because these scientists be paid off by people too. Like, it's the whole advertising point. Like, who knows what information you're putting out or not putting out based off the fact that, Philip Morris funded your, your study. Like, who knows? So I'm gonna do my own study on myself, see what this food, how it makes me feel, how, inputs and outputs. And I'm telling you, you are, like, we forgot, you are what you eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even if we, we know that whatever that slogan, that line, it's like we don't actively know it. We don't actively apply it, to our life. We just, we know it. You are what you eat, but I'm still going to go get some Wendy's or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's that habit, that lack of discipline, or like that. All right, it's fine. This is the life I would be more comfortable with. It goes back to like convenience and comfort and all the other things. It's just really about like prioritizing yourself, the longevity and the quality of your life. Yeah, you get some quality here and there because this Wendy's just made you happy. But a week from now or so, you're probably going to go back like, dang, I wish I didn't have that Wendy's, But yeah, it's the things that we don't see. Like you said, the things that we don't see, that you're so blessed to have worked on yourself so well that you're so aware of your whatever what's going on mentally, what you're bringing into your life, how you're talking, what you're eating. A lot of times people will just either not be aware or just neglect what they're already aware of,
Well, they also, like, let's not, look at the fire without focusing on some on the accelerant too. I'm in a very privileged position to be able to even think about some things like that. It's kind of like sustainability. As much as you want to go into the hood and talk about composting and water collection and even a plant-based diet, like, bro, I'm just trying to eat. I don't care what I'm eating. I'm just trying to put something in my belly, right? So there are systemic things, and kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you will, that you got to take care of on the bottom of that pyramid before you can even get to thinking about, some of these. when do I have, if I was in the hood working 2 or 3 jobs to try and make ends meet, when would I ever have time to even sit down and research the fact that hormones from chicken can affect my mental health? It's not happening. Right. So like that again also has been strategically done to prevent those who need that help the most from ever discovering or having access to the education to become self-sufficient and aware.
Right. And then even access to that education, like during one of my masters, I did a huge project on food deserts. And like, it shocked me how many food deserts we have in specific areas, again, all by design, strategically done that way, you know, where even if people are like, I want to eat healthier, you have to drive 10 miles to a grocery store that has produce, like real life produce, for you to be able to buy it. You know, even 5 miles. They say a typical food desert would be 10 miles away. Most people don't even have a car in the hood to go those 10 miles to be considered a food desert. They're walking or taking the bus to where they got to go. And the fact that they're even 1 mile, like you should be able to go 1 or 2 miles and get yourself an apple, you know, get yourself some lettuce to cook that night. You can go in the hood every mile and see a corner store, you know, with some cigarettes and blunt wraps and candy and processed food and everything else, lottery. Every mile you'll see 1 or 2 or maybe even 3, every corner practically, but no fresh produce, farmer's market, you know, a good working giant. Yeah. So that opened my eyes a lot to like our system is so damaged. It's actually so disgusting to see, you know, how purposeful they were in doing this. It's unreal. And that was my project, was to first point out the food deserts in certain areas and then to try to create the solutions and, you know, connections and partnerships with entities to be able to bring in healthy something, you know what I mean? At least help these small business owners create a farmer's market in this hood instead of them fighting each other to get a good spot, you know, in your local farmer's market at a nice little area that everyone is all, you know, rich or doing well. Yeah. Like that actually really ticked me off when I did that project, because it's disgusting. I remember growing up in Compton. I remember what we ate. I remember, you know, how far my mom had to go to get anything healthy, how costly it was for her, you know, feeding 7 kids. Like 6, we had, my sister passed away in Syria, but I mean, it's so, and it's and that was when I was a child, like till this day, it's only gotten worse. It's not gotten better in any way. It's only gotten worse. And that blows my mind.
So
yeah.
I guess I'll be the interviewee here. The mysterious they, why would they have the incentive or motivation to create such inefficient communities? What do you think?
Honestly, I think it all is control. It all is to segregate, provide lesser opportunity, to make people mentally unhealthy, less fit.
But why? Why? If I'm say I'm the top 1% elite that's putting together my community,
yeah,
wouldn't I want it to be restorative or, you know, regenerative or like, you know what I'm saying? Like you know, like because I've always get to the point, some people are like, you know, whoever they are, they do it for money.
Right.
But if those people are the ones that create the money, why they don't need you to get them money? They can just
segregation, I think, is like the main objective, or like the main want is the segregation. I feel like they purposely don't want these type of people to even have a piece. They want to keep these people controlled in these ways, which it will control them in bigger ways, financial ways. It's almost as like if someone a company creates a product, or who was that one guy? Tommy Hilfiger, I think, was one that Kanye blasted for being like racist or something like that. But that's a perfect example of like, wouldn't you want everyone to buy your clothes? Like, wouldn't that make you more money? But instead, it's like that belief, that ego of like, no, my clothes are not for you. I don't want to have this opportunity to put on my clothes, even though you'll pay and it'll make me money. It's still like that sense of control, I think, keeping people where they are and not on the level equal to your level. But I don't know. I could be way wrong. I don't think I've thought about it as deeply as that question, because that's a really deep question. What do you think? What would you say?
How do I want to frame this? The people who put the systems in place long ago realized that they're the true minorities on earth.
Oh yes. We've talked about this before too. Yeah.
Women are not minorities on earth. They're the majority, 51%. And so are Black and brown people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that leave? Old, male, pale, and stale.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I just think that, you know, I mean, again, my opinion, my thought, that if you let this simulation, let's call life the simulation on earth that we're in, run, eventually there would be no white people.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And I don't think people like that, you know, whoever, you know, some people don't, some people do. And I believe, again, the people who put those systems in place, you know, back, whoever, and I mean, shoot, it could even be the other side, right? You could go back into ancient Africa, you know, same types of things, like whenever there was an albino or somebody from a, you know, upper region, upper latitude from Morocco or Northern Africa that came down to certain areas, Nigerians or Kenyans, whatever you want to, like, they're not very privy to lighter toned people engaging with, you know, their women or their men or their families, right? And I mean, you could look at it kind of, now when you look at the actual structure of systems and some of those type things, like, it's not the same, but I think it's in human nature almost to be more comfortable around those who look like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that when you don't have a lot of people that look like you, right? When you are the true minority within the world and you've got some power to try and sway the world's view, like even like with religion and education and like who conquered who, and like not talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like even like the building of the pyramids, like they weren't built by slaves. They were built by prominent Africans that wanted to build very architecturally sound and based off the stars with astrology and geometry and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like his story, like the people who came very violent, they're the ones who have been writing history, right? The ones who had to use the guns, the drugs, the steel, the germs to conquer the world are the ones who have written history, right? So like, even like as a Black person, like the cultural indoctrination to think, let's look at the media representation. I'm only ever seeing movies about, you know, Harriet Tubman or like Django and like slave movies, like, albeit, you know, yeah, my people were enslaved, but they're not slaves.
Right.
Like, tell me about the other people. What about, you know what I'm saying? What about Mansa Musa? What about Carver? And more about Malcolm and Martin? And like, where are those stories? And why aren't those ones pounded into me? Like, but kind of to our original question, right? If a bunch of minorities became educated,
right,
they became prosperous and abundant and engaged with each other, then eventually you just get a bunch of beige people.
That's exactly.
But, you know, so I think those systems were put in place out of fear.
Yes, out of fear. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, and it is there. It's like trying to preserve, you know, yourself, your species, your type, and your entitlement, obviously, preservation of that. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And
you go off on the conspiracy side of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. We don't have to go. Like, energy harvesting is like a thing that people talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can keep humanity in a state of kind of depression, there are like these entities that like harvest our energy. I don't know. Who knows if that's real or not? But like, it's interesting to think about, you know, to
honestly,
put that.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah. What the media shows us, the news is nothing but fear, 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 fear. I mean, and people are like addicted to the news, like truly addicted. They have to watch it, you know, and I haven't watched the news in like over 10 years. I refuse. Even on my social, I'm so strategic about what I allow on my feed. And I'm not a scroller. I do more posting than I do any sort of scrolling. If I do, it's mainly to engage with new people to get more people to come to me. But the scrolling, if I see one negative thing, I'm like, hide it, block it, do something. Because the moment I look at it for more than 2 seconds, my algorithm will change and I'll see more of that crap on my timeline. Yeah.
And that releases hormones, which are
Yes.
the messengers for your body.
Yes. Because I'll see something and it'll absolutely trigger me. And I'm like, oh, I cannot unsee this. And I'm like, I can't have it on my timeline. I'm super sensitive, and my mom, she constantly watches the war and stuff in our country. And she makes me feel so bad that I don't watch it or I don't talk about it with her or anything. And I tell her, like, I don't do it because, I feel helpless, I can't help them anyway. One day I just want to throw money at the situation or go visit and do what I can. But watching it and watching these kids getting blown up and talking to you about it is not going to help that situation. Instead, it's just going to keep me at such a negative place that I probably won't be able to get to the person I need to become in order to really make an effect on what's happening over there, But and the fact that she watches it, sometimes I'll call her and her iPad will be going and you just hear like bombs and screaming, screeching, and people are like, Allahu Akbar. And I'm like, what are you watching? Like, this is why you're so depressed. Turn it off. Change what you're bringing in. Even I have to say, I am a little bit addicted to, crime documentaries and things like that. And I have to really regulate that because it's caused me to have such paranoia over my daughter. Like, oh my God, the world is so bad. Like, look at what's happening, blah, blah, blah. I'm fearful for her future instead of like watching great things and positive things and things that don't add to this already, fear that I have over needing to protect her and, the world that she might experience. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, baby. 1 second. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, and that's real. That's real.
Yeah. Yeah. It all will control, our energy and what we can, how our brain starts to, think about. Dreams, I think, are extremely helpful to show like what is in our subconscious, what has, come into our brain that we may not have even known. And now it's coming out in some sort of a dream, because I noticed once I watch lesser of those things, my dreams get better, So yeah, it's very important. And I think more of it needs to be talked about.
Hey, inputs, outputs, what you listen to, you watch, you hear, you eat, you smell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Determine,
Let's
your
get
reality.
the bridge, because I feel like I've had you on here for like an hour and haven't even gotten to your companies, because I know
we have. The thing is, though, we have been talking about the bridge.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's true because you're going to affect all of these areas with the bridge. And I really love that you encompass all of those things in what you're trying to build because it's so important. It's so crucial. I mean, these are things, like you said, a city or a community is only as powerful, as great as the services and resources it provides. And that's so accurate. That's so true. Because I see so many of these communities. I just told my friend the other day, we're driving, it's all a nice area. Oh, this is nice. And then poof, like in a split second, everything changes. Oh, now we're in a complete ghetto. Like, what just happened? And before, like, they would try, like, the community would try to like slow that transition down. Like, there's a little bit of space between the rich and the complete poor, Now it's like, boop, like you could stand on one side of the line, one leg on one and one leg on the other. And it's like it's awful. And I'm like, what? Like, they don't even care anymore to hide it, and it makes me not want to be in that community. Like, no, I don't really like this. This is complete separation of what you offer these people here and what you offer these people here. And they live in the same community, the same spot, same city. Yeah.
Across the railroad tracks.
Yes. Yeah. That to me. And that's important that you're thinking about providing all these services and resources to the community because it's lacking. It's absolutely lacking.
I'll give you a little spiel on the bridge. The bridge is actually directly inspired by the town of Hershey.
Okay.
And Milton Hershey himself. right? He realized when he founded not our school, but the town for his chocolate factory, it was for his workers, right? In order for him to create the most efficient, bought in, loyal employees, he had to create not just a place to work, but also eat, live, learn, and play. Right? He created an ecosystem, an environment, kind of a self-sufficient one,
Right.
where, you know, Hershey Park, Hershey Theater, Hershey Gardens, Milton Hershey School, Penn State Hershey Medical Center, built tons of homes, right? So the
Wow.
workers didn't have to go. Everything you need is right there in that town. And to this day, what it has yielded is an international destination, a Fortune 100 company, a private boarding school, a philanthropic private boarding school that has the second largest endowment, second only to Harvard, at $17 billion, right? So we're talking about people, planet, profit, philanthropy, right? My man got it, knew it, did it, and he is a revolutionary. So when I was at the school, I'm always thinking like, you know, where are the rest of these campuses at, right? There's only one Milton Hershey School campus in the middle of Farm County, Pennsylvania.
Right.
But like, what about the people, you know, from Compton and on the West Coast? And like, they shouldn't have to come all the way across the country. Or like, how do we get more of these campuses around? One, which is tough with the deed, I figured out. But then two, where are the rest of these corporations that are intentionally building infrastructure in the communities that they operate in, right? Milton Hershey created the chocolate factory, homes, the garden, the park, like so why aren't other Fortune 100, 500 companies being intentional in that way, right? So as I got older, I leave Milton Hershey School with those two questions. I go to Penn State. And what was also then reinforced at Penn State, another thing that Milton Hershey, with his give back, Penn State, Joe Paterno, grand experiment, as I explained, so much locked into the academic side of it that he donated millions of dollars to build a library at Penn State. It's called the Petit Paterno Library. And that was what Joe Paterno was truly about. So when we talk about investing in education and community give back, those things were reinforced by that environment that I was in, right? So then I get on to the NFL, and I'm in Seattle and San Francisco, which are two growing, well, San Francisco and Seattle, two growing, prominent tech, cities. And the second question I had in high school or at Milton Hershey School, where are these corporations building, you know, intentionally in their infrastructure in their communities, was put on blast, right? Out here in Seattle, they call it the invisible crisis, where there's a tremendous amount of homeless people. And you know, that happens by not having homes. Like, where are the homes for the homeless people? Like, these aren't homeless people who are like, you know, some of the unfortunate mental health issues that happen, or, you know, some unfortunate situations with law or whatever. Like, some people do like art, but there are other people who are homeless just because they don't have access to a home, right? These are low-income individuals who would most times be in a low-income home, but low-income homes are available in places like Seattle and San Francisco, because the middle class lives in the lower class homes, because the upper class is so far upper because those tech companies increase wages, increase property values, increase the cost of living, that those who now live in this area can no longer work there. And if they work there, they probably can't live there. Like your nurses and your police officers, firefighters, your blue collar workers, your everyday day-to-day workers, your essential workers can no longer work where they live. And that caused an issue. They call it the invisible crisis, right? So now the middle class ends up in the lower class homes. Access to lower class homes are non-existent. So those individuals end up on the street in tents, right? There's tent cities are all across Seattle. And what happens when you don't fulfill somebody's basic needs, right? The philosophical or physiological needs, the food, the shelter, and the water, humans look to change their state. Right? Like, we look for a pursuit of happiness, and we look to kind of not have to deal with the problems. And the way that humans change their state is with drugs and alcohol and some of those issues. So now we have homelessness, drugs, and alcohol. Like, there's a problem. Somewhat like it was really bad down in San Francisco when, you know, we're trying to get to Levi Stadium, coming past Samsung and Google and things, and people are striking on the road, preventing us from getting into work. You know, like, these are regular, everyday looking people, not like homeless people. Like, these are Americans that don't have opportunity. Like, no, like, what is going on here? So that was fairly recent in my life, right? And it's like, okay, wow, those questions, Gary, that you had when you were at Milton Hershey School are still existing to this day. But now I made my own money. All right. So, well, what are you doing, Gary, in your community to provide these resources that you're talking about? Because I'm a true believer that if you have a complaint,
Yeah.
you have a career.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
So go do something about it, right? So let's iron it all out. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
As a football player or an NFL player that has a platform and social capital, I feel it's very important to go home and do things beyond a football camp, right? Because, you know, to our conversation, the average NFL career is only 2.5 years, but here's the kicker: 88% of NFL players are bankrupt within just 2 years of being done.
Yeah.
So if I'm a young Black kid and I'm told the only way I'm going to feed my family, my mom, is if I'm being an athlete, an entertainer, or a drug dealer.
Right.
With drug dealers getting locked up and killed, rappers are getting locked up, killed, don't have that much money. And football players, right, they're not very long careers, and most are broke within just a few years of being done. So I'm coming home to hold a Garry Gilliam football camp for 300 kids who think, mom and dad think, if that kid touches my hand, they'll have the juice. They're gonna have an opportunity to make it to the NFL, when in reality, you probably won't. One, and two, you have a very high chance of being broke even if you do make it.
Right.
So me, as the platform holder, didn't sit well with me, right? Because I was raised in different environments, right? I wasn't pushed through school saying, oh, you're an athlete, just focus on that. No, there was environments, right? The whole man concept, the grand experiment, you know, what mom told me, there was a line of culture that's different than your traditional athlete, which is truly the inspiration of getting the athletes involved with the bridge, because it takes us to get this message out.
Yes.
But you can't do that also unless you yourself are educated.
Right.
So that's what we partnered with other athletes, right, within the different bridge locations to be kind of the face of it, to get the community there, to get them the resources that they need. And whether they want to be investors or not, them being associated with a bridge is what brings the community there.
Exactly.
Now, what are they coming there to do? So let's, I guess, get that out, right? So there's a few different entities to the bridge, right? There's for-profit entities, there's nonprofit entities. We have a consulting company. We partner with different people through mergers, acquisitions, joint ventures.
Yeah.
Anyway, it takes a lot, different business structures to get things like this done. All that to say this, that the bridge looks to acquire schools, malls, warehouses, land, and convert them into what we call eco-villages. Right. And an eco-village is really just a fancy way of saying a mixed-use development, an intentional mixed-use development that has spaces for the community to work, eat, live, learn, and play. Right. Very similar to what Hershey did and how he set up that town. Right. Well, that worked for me and a bunch of my homies. I think it might work for some other people too. Let's replicate the thing 20 minutes down the road that's been there for over 100 years, turning out successful individuals. Maybe we should look to replicate that in some other places. Well, since the school can't do it through their deed, well, maybe we can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So these work, eat, live, learn, play, right? What does that mean? Each of those branches are actually identifying different points of pain in society. What I learned in business school was you identify a point of pain and you solve it with a product, a good, or a service. And you'll probably be a pretty wealthy individual, right? Well, some of the points of pain that I had identified were pretty big societal issues like affordable housing and food deserts, workforce development, mental health issues, incarceration rates, infant mortality rates, access to healthcare, the social determinants of health, like big, broad things that are everywhere, but no one's actually pinpointed how to stitch it up, right? They're just putting band-aids on bullet wounds instead of really stitching up, you know, the societal and systemic issues that we're seeing. So the work branch is actually connected to corporate workplace. So what we do is identify disparities within that sector. So things like executive roles held in business. An example, of the Fortune 500 companies, there's only currently 4 Black CEOs.
Wow.
And there's only ever been 17, ever.
That's that's just unbelievable. Just again, disgusting. Like, wow.
A problem, no doubt, right? So what we do is we identify the problem and then we track the root causes, right? What are some root causes for this extreme disparity, this gap that needs a bridge, if you will? Like, what's caused it?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of places stop. They've identified why these issues are happening, but then they're not providing solutions for how to solve them.
Right.
So if corporate workplace disparities is a problem, executive roles held in business, then it's not just enough for us to rely on these top companies to hire said individuals. But what about women, Black, poor white owned companies themselves? What about those businesses that are being developed to provide services for the points of pain in their communities?
Right.
What are we doing to give them access to predatory funds,
Yeah.
right? Like grants and investments that aren't trying to take advantage of them and eradicate the business at its core, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not, we don't need the big Walmarts everywhere. We need the mom and pop shops, because the Walmarts aren't investing back in our communities. The mom and pops are, right? So
They're eating up the mom and pops. Yeah.
systemic, not beneficial for our communities, very degenerative, if you will, right? So that's work. Eat, you'll love this one. The Eat branch's point of pain is converting food deserts into food oases.
Oh, yeah.
So we do that by way of I'll give an example how this point of pain came about, right? Being plant-based, I have to eat a lot of plants, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm living in a northern latitude and it's in the winter time, where's my food coming from? It's coming from California, Florida, right? It's coming from far places. Turns out that within just 3 days of you picking your food, it loses 30% of its nutritional value.
Wow.
So now not only am I living in a food desert, but the food within my food desert isn't even giving me the proper nutritional value I need, right? When we talk about kids and their attention spans,
Yeah.
right, they're sitting there eating, an apple maybe, and it's not even actually an apple. It's not
Yeah.
even giving them what they need,
30%.
right? One, which is an issue. Two, fruits and vegetables don't have, hands and feet to run away or defend themselves. So how do they defend themselves? With enzymes and things like that. So the compounded issue of transporting food long distances is that food needs to get picked early.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm a tree, I would normally just drop my apple and give it to you when it's ready. But now you're picking my apple and I got to defend my baby apple. So there's stuff inside the apple that will hurt you by eating it. So now there's things in your fruits and vegetables that can hurt you because they're being shipped too far. One, the nutritional value is also not there. Then three, it starts to decay tremendously before it even gets to you.
Right.
Like there's a significant difference in the quality of produce in Southern California than in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And it's because even the people in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania are okay to eat an avocado that is like white and not deep green, like because they're not used to it, right? So again, a systemic issue, but how do we solve it, right? We track the root cause, but what is the stitch up? We got to grow food locally.
Yeah.
Well, in the city, how do you grow food? Like there's not a bunch of land and it's in the winter. How am I growing food? Indoor
Vertical
urban farming.
Yes, that's
aeroponics, hydroponics, water collection, solar panels, bio-waste, food digesters, controlling your environment, bigger yields, going vertical, right? Like you can feed upwards of 100,000 people on just 1/3 of an acre of a vertical farm.
Exactly.
Right. So now we can be a supplier to the restaurants, the bodegas, right? We can start to populate the grocery stores, because when I go to a grocery store and ask, hey, what's the likelihood of you guys being in certain locations? You're like, well, based off of our studies of the area, there's not a high enough disposable income and or the density isn't high enough.
Yeah.
So what, they don't make enough money to be fed properly? What? That doesn't, so, a systemic, your grocery store redlining is going on.
Right.
Because what happens when there's not grocery stores in an area, property values are directly impacted. School districts are directly impacted, right? So now homeowner occupied rates are lower. The taxable base to your school is lower, which means the resources and opportunities for your local school district are also lower.
Yes.
No coincidence here. It turns out these areas that have less grocery stores have lower graduation rates.
Yes.
Check this out. Graduation rates are actually directly linked to your ability, or not even your ability, but your likelihood of being locked up.
Wow. Yes.
If you don't have a certain literacy rate, you have a very high chance of being incarcerated, unfortunately. So point is, I just went over kind of, there's corporate workplace, health and wellness, personal finance, education, and criminal justice, as well as environmental justice. So it turns out that all the problems, here's the point, they're all holistically connected.
Yes.
The system is called systemic oppression.
Yes.
Well, the only way you combat a system is with another system. Right? And not just combat it, but how do we strategically start to dismantle the system that is not benefiting the majority of our country and the world? Right? Well, one, we need to work together. To two, establish a culture. And three, lay the system. Right? We call this system systemic empowerment. So we build infrastructure. One, co-working spaces, maker spaces, work, eat, farming, live, housing, learn, educational spaces, play, sports complexes, batting cages, rock climbing walls, right? Then what our nonprofit does, because it's not just enough to drop a bag in the hood and create this shiny object. But if I've never built a business before, no one in my family has ever built a business before, your co-working space and makerspace does nothing for me. I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to create a business, but our nonprofit brings the punch, right? They bring the educational programs. The self-sufficiency objectives are achieved through our nonprofit, right? Teaching people ways to learn to work, learn to eat, learn to live, learn and learn to play, right? Back to the business. We partner with local universities to establish incubation and acceleration programs for these entrepreneurs that are utilizing our co-working spaces.
Yes, that's so great.
Learning to eat, working with other local nonprofits and government agencies and such to teach people ways to farm, how to invest in real estate, trades training, right? I've met a lot of broke athletes, champ, but I've never met a broke plumber.
Yes.
So you want to build for your family, you want to provide for your family, and then literally build your community. Go get a trade, learn carpentry, plumbing, electric, right? Milton Hershey got that. That's why we had our career exploration pathways. He got it, that the skills pay the bills. So in reality, what the bridge, learn to eat, or excuse me, learn to work, eat, live, investing in real estate, learn to play is the correlation between mental health and physical health. Also normalizing therapy, right? Bro, we got to talk to somebody. We live in traumatic areas and have had traumatic experiences that the average human should not have. We got to work that out, right? And then show you how to have an outlet. Like I can tell you as a football player, maybe not the most healthy outlet, but if there was ever a time that I was angry, I could go hit a bag, right? Or go work out, right? But the average person doesn't get that. And in the hood where the trauma is the worst and there are no outlets, you get high incarceration rates, right? People are looking for things to do. So that's learn to play. Infrastructure, right? Building these physical spaces, and then the education, teaching people how to be self-sufficient right, within those spaces creates systemic empowerment.
That's awesome.
That's what the bridge is doing. Our main campus is there in Harrisburg, looking to be completed construction in Q2 of 2024. So we've been working on, getting all of our fundraising together, the capital stack, business structures, rezoning the property, things like that. All the while working in Harrisburg, we've been summoned to other municipalities and cities and by investors and developers and mayors and such to put together plans for a bridge in their cities as well.
Yes.
The bridge itself was officially started in 2019, right? And people in the beginning are like, we get it. Athlete wants to go home and do something for his community, makes sense. Good luck. Proud of you. You have a lot of passion for it. Can't wait to see it be built, right? We get it, but kind of not. Then 2020 happens, right? We have a global ongoing racial crises and environmental crises. The stock market plummets, and we have our ongoing pandemic. Right? Like we talk about exposing disparities in health access and supply chain and food security. Literally everything that we provide a solution for was put on blast. So I call 2020 and COVID really the flood that lifted the arc of the bridge.
Yes.
Right. Wow. Not just an interest in these things needing to be around the world for that matter, but the access to the capital to do so. It's like there's grants, there's tax credits, there's a lot of private, like, the Bezos Earth Fund and $10 billion. All these corporations talking about how they stand in line with Black lives and the underserved communities. We're like, what are we doing to actually build the bridge out of this place?
Exactly.
Right? We keep talking about these crabs in the barrel, but last I checked, crabs don't belong in a barrel.
Anything? Yeah, exactly. Or is it just words? Yeah.
Just words, lip service, right? So that kind of the bridge is a good, because let's think about it. If you are male, pale, and stale, how would you know how to help a young Black woman in the hood?
Right. Exactly.
So that solution needs to come from said individual.
Yes.
So when we talk about inclusion and diversity and equity, like those are real words. Like, don't talk about me without me. So that's what the bridge does. We bring the blueprint, right? Work, eat, live, learn, play. But the specific amenities that go within each bridge location are determined by that community. Right. Even in Harrisburg, on Allison Hill, the needs are different than uptown.
Yes. Yeah.
So it takes the working and the inclusion of the community, and then literally the inclusion of the building of the community. Yeah, because if I want to be inclusive in those who are literally building the bridge, right? The contractors, the HVAC, all those individuals, there's not a lot of people who look like me that are qualified to do what I need them to do, right? So is it just a matter of complaining, or do we now start a pipeline of these individuals? Right. That's what we do. Right? So we partner with local nonprofits to create trades programs to get these individuals certified. Again, a mini Milton Hershey school. That's literally what it is. It's modeled after Milton Hershey, a 15-minute city in an urban school, right where it needs to be, right? Milton Hershey may not be able to get there, but hey, here we are with the Milton Hershey model and curriculums. Like, let's build, you know?
Yes. And, you know, now more than never, you know, trade schools are like on the up and up. All of a sudden, all these other schools are going downhill, you know, but trade schools are on the up and up because trade work is now what's people are seeing, like the importance of it, the longevity of it, the need of it. Yeah. And honestly, most of these trade workers, you know, if they were smart, not smart, but if they were more advantageous in their thinking, every single one of these people can be a self-contractor. They could be on a 1099. They don't even need to be an employee. They can just be freelancing themselves, as in, oh, you need a plumber, you need a contractor, you need a electrician. I'm my own. I'm not an employee of any entity, and you can have my services as long as you just pay me on a 1099. A lot of people think just because you go to trade school or you take up a trade, that automatically makes you an employee. Absolutely not. You can 100% say, I don't want to be an employee and go to this job. I have these skills. I have these certifications. I just need to be on a 1099 and that's it. And just have that belief and that power to say, yeah, I can. Like most people, they weren't even taught that. Like again, this conditioning belief that like go to trade school, you become an employee. No, absolutely not. It's quite the opposite now, actually. Yeah. And it's so much easier to be dealing with these people as, you know, people that are now involved in providing their services to an entity like yours, because, hey, each person, you're on a 1099, you're on a 1099, you're on 1099. I don't have to deal with the entire company. And then they, you know, I have to pay you this whole amount and you give me some of your crappiest workers or whatever. Just boop, scratch the big guy out and let me go help the person, the consumer, the worker who has all these, you know, credentials, and they could do exactly the work I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then train them how to be a minority business enterprise and apply for government contracts and, you know,
yes,
you're bringing the money back to our communities.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. And I
so
love
that's the bridge though, not just talking about it, you know, but doing it and really taking people through it. You know what I'm saying? Like here, let me, I can give you a course and I can talk at you all I want. Yeah, I'm gonna take your hand, bro. Like let's do it. If you about it, here's the environment. You don't have an excuse. Kind of like kids at Milton Hershey School. Like you either take advantage of the resources
or you don't. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's so true. And you know, a lot of it's sad to say, but more people won't than will. And those numbers will one day hopefully change, where, you know, we start to empower more people to believe in themselves and we give them that, you know, hold your hand throughout the experience feeling. You know, a lot of times people are too scared. Like they're just too scared to try something new or to go down this path. They don't believe in themselves enough. But having that person say, like, if you don't believe in you, I believe in you. And here's everything you will possibly need along the way, you know, holding your hand. That is so powerful. And that's where the numbers will come.
Yeah. And the numbers come with the culture shift.
Yeah.
You know? One, like what they say, you surround yourself with 4 millionaires, you'll be the 5th.
Yeah.
There's going to come a time where, like, you know, boys gonna be like, bro, like you weren't on the corner. Like we were supposed to be, you know, getting the lick. Like, bro, no, I was at the bridge. They had a real estate investment seminar, and as long as I go to 5 of these courses, I get access to this pitch competition. I get a $10,000 grant to my business. Like, bro, I don't need to be out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then when he hears that from his boy, like it just takes one.
Yes.
And 2, when you start to, but again, what helps that is athletes. Like, oh, bro, I get to go talk to, you know, Jordan Hill or Garry Gilliam, Noah Spence. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, come through, bro. Like, now let me teach you how to get where I got without going the path that I went. Because you probably won't be able to make it. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah, because
and not everybody cut to be an NFL player.
Right.
But everybody can be cut to do a trade.
Lower. Yeah. It's all a probability game in the end. Yeah. That's awesome. The vertical farming, I have to say, that's something my husband and I have been wanting to get into for like years. And that's going to be like the next industry that we jump into, because it's so people don't even realize how huge of a need vertical farming actually is. I hate going to the city. I actually despise going into the city. I'll be honest, going into Philly, because that's where his mom and his grandma live. And they lived there over 50 years in the same house. And I just hate going through the city because I see all these empty buildings, people taking their morning jog next to this homeless lady sleeping on the sidewalk, and like the human indifference. It's hard for me. Like everyone always says, like, you're going to be broke if you live in the city, because I always end up giving someone my coffee or my donut or my, hey, you need a coat. Like, that's just, it's so hard for me to see it and just turn a blind eye, like, can't help you today, or, you got to help yourself kind of thing. And I get all those things, but just being in the city, all of those buildings to me are like, why aren't these being used? Like, this could be a vertical farm. This could be a vertical farm. This could be this. There's so much and nothing is happening. Like the moment I have tons and tons and tons of money, that is the first thing I'm probably going to be investing in, is buildings for vertical farms. Singapore, I know is the only country, honestly, who has like literally created a process of mimicking photosynthesis, and their vertical farming is unbelievable, like unbelievable, the level that they are way ahead of us. And all they did was utilize empty buildings and recreate the photosynthesis process. And now they can have fresh food anywhere. Like you said, pick it, eat it, pick it, eat it. One of the healthiest countries in the world. And there's so much, like, America has so much resources that nobody even cares to use. And I know it's systematic. I know it's purposely done to continue to oppress. Like, America knows they have all these resources. They're smart. You know what I mean? Yet they're not doing it. They would rather leave that building empty and ugly and disgusting than just put in a free vertical farm. Start to feed that food desert that you have. You know what I mean? But that vertical farming, I probably have been talking about vertical farming, my husband and I, for like 3 years now, before it even became like a thing, maybe even more than 3 years now. Like, before anyone was talking about it, I was like, or my husband was like, yeah, like vertical farm is the next big thing. And now even more people are talking about it now. I heard about the bridge. Corey told me that you guys were in the hydroponics thing. And I'm just like, this is going to be the next hugest industry for people. People should already start to invest in maybe other companies that are already doing it. But I know for sure this will be a company that I am going to get into, a process, a company. I don't know how yet I'm going to go about it. Yes.
I'm right here.
Yes, because I love horticulture. I love planting. I love the process of learning that. I want to put my money where my mouth is. That will be my next big investment, like 100%. It's already said and done. I'm so passionate about this because it's such a huge need. Like, I don't understand why more people aren't talking about it. I just don't get it. Yeah. It can solve so many things. It's crazy, and can make, honestly, so much money. Like, let's be honest. In the end, of course, we all need to eat. We all want to continue to multiply our funds, and it can make so much money. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. It's powerful that you guys have included that. It's really great.
I mean, if food isn't a part of your revolution, then I don't think you have a foundation for it. It won't be sustained.
Yes.
Because that's what's killing Black and brown people more than anything is our food.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, it's the root. Like, it's all connected, It's unbelievable.
Disposable income coming from access to jobs. But remember, those executive roles are only held by affluent white people.
Yeah.
My ability to make money also attracts the grocery store, which the grocery store attracts, higher home property values. And if I own my home, taxable income going to my graduation, high school graduation rates and literacy rates affect the incarceration rates, right? So that's work, eat, live, learn, play. Like, we make it like, but like, no, this is strategic to stitch up community issues, right? True economic restoration.
Yes.
and not just focus on creating jobs, right? Like we're creating those who create the jobs. We're
Yeah.
making the bosses, right?
Right.
That's who the homeowners, the people who are creating the companies, right? What community restoration really needs, those
Right.
visionaries.
Yeah.
And there's a huge gap in those as well. Hence this Fortune 500 gap
Yeah.
in Black, and there's even less women. Obviously, like was even, which that's an interesting thing for me because
So crazy.
men are supposed to be providers, protectors, but women are definitely more, they're way better with the schematics and the thought process, the supply chain of things. Like
Wow.
that's really who needs to run companies and governments and things like that. Like give the men, the foot soldiers, the blueprint, the plan, and let us go execute. Like that's where the duality comes in. But we so against each other. You got women that are trying to be, completely independent, which is hurting their ability to do this, and then men that are all, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just,
Yeah.
that's not what it's meant to be. It's supposed to, like, we're supposed to be together.
Yes.
And that again also has been strategic, like even done to this day with
Yeah.
music and with news articles. Like very rarely do you see people promoting like healthy relationships. Like
Right.
it's just not what's put on blast at all.
Exactly. It's not what's trendable. Yeah. And you know what's so funny? I tell people this in my line of business all the time. We're in finance, and I love recruiting women. Like I have to say, I would rather recruit a woman than a man, honestly, because women have such a way with creating and generating and maintaining relationships. Like, and that's in the end, the consumer wants to feel loved, cared about, talked with, like some sort of relationship, something. And women are so in tune with that. I tell the women, in my organization all the time, like it's easier for people to trust a woman. Women trust other women, men trust women. Like it's so, it's we have that aura of like, we love building relationships. That's what we do. You know what I mean? We are the social class, and that is, if businesses would wrap their head around that, they would probably see that their business will explode exponentially if they do get these women more involved in these higher roles. Because collaborations, partnerships, campaigning, what is the school? University of Penn, UPenn in Philly. Their president is a woman. She makes like 4.2 million. She has been the highest, like the best president thus far to have the highest campaigns, like the highest funding for her campaigning. And that's what women do. Like it's no wonder I think they had a previous president before, it was a man or anything, and she like quadrupled the numbers. And that's not to take away from what the man can do, because I'm sure the man can do the same, but I think women are just bred to literally do that. Like it's just in our bones, to, like Chris and I, we have so many couples in our organization, lots of husband and wives that work together and are in business together. And I can speak with them and hang out with them and pick up on a marital issue or something, energy, something. And Chris will be completely oblivious to it. And like later on, I'll be like, hey, I think something is going on here. Maybe we should take them out to dinner. Maybe we can help them in this way or talk more about this. I think they might be having an issue. And he's like, where did you get that from? No, I don't think so, blah, blah. And then like a week later, they'll come to us and let us know that it's something, this and that. And he'll be like, wow, you picked up on that. That's what women do. Like we pick up on that stuff all the time. We're like constant little radar feelers out there for people's emotion and the level of empathy that a woman can have innately, just naturally, is incredible. Yeah.
You know what that all goes back to? Those messengers, the
Yeah.
hormones.
Yes.
Like that's what separates men and women, is estrogen and testosterone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's
like
so true.
we're good at things, y'all good at things, we're both good at things. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, but there's a synergy. The thing is, we're better together than we are apart. I mean, we can't be apart and be great, but we are phenomenal when we work together.
Yes. And it's funny, like my husband and I, when we first got into business together, prior to, I was in business with my brother, and we had a distribution company in California. And I was doing phenomenal, and it was very hard to work with my brother because our culture, is very male dominant. So I knew I wanted to branch out and eventually either run my own business. And I knew my husband wanted to run our business together. He was in food service management. So eventually we transitioned into finance and we started to work together. And we were so incredibly competitive towards each other. Like I couldn't even believe it. How, and it was affecting our marriage. Like it got us to the point of like not liking each other. You know, our ego was just so high. And I'm like, I'm not a paper pusher and I'm not going to be your paper pusher. So you don't, I could do, you know, this job equally or better. And you could do, and we had a lot of, you know, the people around us weren't the best either. They kind of fed off of that competitiveness that they saw in us, and the men would try to pull him this way and the woman would try to pull me this way, instead of like the proper mentorship to be like, hey, you both are amazing and let's prioritize the marriage and let's shatter these egos and, you know, work together. We didn't know, we've never done this before, so we were relying on our mentorship to help us through this new process together, you know, because with my brother I was forced, because of the culture, and he's just so much more powerful than I am, to where anytime I had a different approach to business, he could just shut me up by starting to yell at me. And then I'd be like, all right, I'm not gonna, you know, whereas my husband didn't do that, but instead it would turn into like a silent, yes, baby. It turned into like a silent resent, instead of like, no, this idea is better, be quiet, this and that. It would just be more of a silent resent. So we literally had to, one, get rid of those mentors and learn through ourselves, because we had no other mentors to teach us any better. And eventually what happened was, you know, my daughter came and God, the universe, helped me to shatter my ego, because at that point I was like, okay, I got to step into this role of motherhood, which I never, ever thought I would have to. And that helped me then realize like my ego is getting in the way of this partnership, you know, and I know I'm amazing at business. Like no one needs to validate that for me. Like I was getting all of my significance from the validation of others, the money that I would bring in and all of the stuff. And I felt like after she was born, I lost all that somehow. Like it just, you know, disintegrated into the air. But that's not the case at all. That's just what like the world makes us believe, that like, this is how you contribute. And if you're not contributing this way, then, you know, so that motherhood helped me break that ego of like, okay, I gotta be mom. So I have to kind of step away a little bit from the businesswoman that I was, so I could focus a little more here. And then it just helped us realize like, we're both amazing and I'm good at this. You're good at this. Let's just be good at what our strengths are, you know, and it doesn't matter if people, you know, see anything else for that, you know, and I try to teach that to my couples now, the people I've recruited and we're developing, is because I start to see that same trend in some of our type action people, you know, that same little competitiveness. And I try to like help them through that. Like you guys are equal, and whatever it is your strengths are, we're going to help you continue to build on those strengths together. And just know that you're working towards the overall partnership. Like no one is doing less than the other. No one is, you know, less based on their strengths, like none of that. It's another conditioned belief in this world that like, you know, women are supposed to do this and men are supposed to do this. And it's just like, yeah, it's unbelievable how all of these conditioned things have to be unlearned.
Unlearn, relearn, melt and refreeze. Yeah, all that. And it takes time, you know, and that's culture though. And conversations like this, like there is a consciousness shift going on, you know, throughout the world too. So these types of messages I think will be retained, and I think people will be a bit more receptive to them, you know, nowadays. Even like environmental stuff and mental health things, like we are more connected. I think as bad as social media can be, it has done some good things, which is kind of create this like global brain.
Yeah.
You know, like people have access to information if they want it, bad information or good information, and how they use it is up to them, but at least they've got access to it, right? Social media and the internet has done some great things for bridging those gaps.
Right.
Like you can go learn a lot on YouTube University.
Yes.
Like, so
Yeah. It's funny because I have 2 masters and my bachelor's, and I wouldn't say I regret it, but I would also say I regret it, because it's like I went into entrepreneurship in '08, and I already had 1 master's under my belt, and then, I did great with my brother, but it was like, do I want to be in this other rat race now? I mean, being a distributor, we were 90 hours a week schedule. I never saw my husband. I was in China 3 months out of the year. I was practically married to my brother, and we lived in our warehouse, and it was constant chasing of the market and the next product and the next product and the competition and who's messing up my prices and counterfeit. I mean, counterfeit almost took us out. It did take out our product, and we were able to jump into the next trend of vaporizers and things like that. But it literally, like, the counterfeit of all of that, everything. Like, I knew for this, I was making maybe what, like 360, and had zero life to enjoy that money. Zero. Like, never went out. If I did ever go out, we would go eat, because that's our favorite thing to do. Never could vacation. I mean, we've had several issues having kids because of this stressful life. And everybody would be like, why would you ever want to leave that? You make so much money. And I'm like, I want to make money, and I want to be happy though. Like, and I don't want to sell sex pills and vaporizers the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Or the next trending product and the next one and the next one. Like, I want to make a lot of money, but I want to do something that adds value. Like, maybe a sex pill adds value, but real value, like true value to people. And thank God finance came our way, because being in the financial industry was something that showed me the incredible need that's out there, right? People are just drowning financially, drowning with illiteracy for their financial situation, drowning with lack of resources, lack of mentorship, lack of coaching, lack of education, fear, the ostrich syndrome, where they just stick their head in the ground and hope that their 401k will do its job. Like, it is such a scary situation being able to see the inside. And I really do fear for people. I fear for America. Like, eventually middle class won't even exist anymore. It will be the rich, or it will be the poor. It will only get worse. Social Security will dwindle, all of those things. And if people don't stop with the ostrich syndrome, stop with the fear, learn to unlearn some of these things that we were conditioned to believe, and relearn some new evolved information, like they will be that 80-year-old working at Amazon in the warehouse, packaging and shipping, working at.
Maybe not. They probably won't, because there'll be robots in there.
Right. And they'll probably die before 80. Like, the life expectancy may be increasing because of medicine keeping us alive longer than we probably should be, but quality of life will sooner than medicine kill people. Like it just will. These people will just won't be able to. Maybe, like, I look at my mom would be broke. She has 0 401k. Her Social Security gives her it was 800. Now it's like 6 something a month. Who she's 74. What 74-year-old woman with diabetes, all these ailments, can't do anything, could survive off of $600 a month? Like, it's disgusting. You know what I mean? And she worked all her life coming to America. Like, it's crazy. And no one taught her. No one came and was like, let me help you get out of this hole of illiteracy. No one does that to the average person who does have a regular ongoing job and a 401k. Like, they're in a hole and they are too afraid to reach out. It's that stigma. You might judge me if you know my financial situation. You might judge me if you know I've had thoughts about killing myself. You might judge me if you think I have mental health issues. Like, this fear of judgment, yet we are all in the same boat. Like, if people only knew your neighbor is also struggling, like, and they're also just as afraid as you are. So now none of you guys are just keeping it away from each other, when you could be talking about it together and helping and supporting each other. Yeah. Like, so I'm grateful I was brought to this industry, because I'm super passionate about it. And I know I could help whatever I can, and now I feel more fulfilled, obviously, being able to provide a better service, more valuable to people. But again, there's so much need. America has not, it's great that it's land of the free, and people come here to fulfill their American dream, but it really is no longer in America. My dream is to like leave America and live overseas. And because life overseas, from my experience, because I've had the experience, is so much more than what America can provide. You know what I mean? So yeah. But what you're doing, back to what you're doing, and I love the fact that you want to take it international. I absolutely love that, because that is just not starting in Harrisburg, and the fact that other mayors and cities are reaching out to you is proof in the pudding.
Other countries too, like Royal family from India, the president of Nigeria, like some
Wow.
crazy stuff. It's like
Unbelievable. Yes.
wild.
Yeah, it's proof in the pudding that people see this and are like, huh, okay, this
Hey,
is what we've been missing.
and if I can stand on the shoulders of Uncle Milt
Yes,
and help build that bridge, then that's my life purpose,
absolutely. Yeah. So you're saying, the building that you bought, I forgot what that building was called.
It was Bishop McDevitt High School in Harrisburg.
High school. Yes. The construction, is that the construction you said is going to be done in 2014, or is it all?
Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
Or to 2024, sorry. All, okay. Yeah. And honestly, construction, because I've done construction on, my brother and I were also in real estate. So we bought all these houses and did all this construction and this and that. And that was a learning process. Construction can, like they say, a year, it turns to 3 years. Like there's always something that comes up, something changes, and it's such a ongoing project, ongoing, never ending. Sometimes it seems.
Nailed it. That's right.
And I can't even imagine, and that was just on the real estate side. So I can't even imagine to the degree that you're building. It's just awesome.
I put it this way: it's not just me, right? It's a team, just like a football game. I have a tremendous team around me, very competent, great individuals who understand the just cause. This is bigger and beyond all of us.
Yeah.
And we always say, if not now, then when? And if not us, then who?
Yes, absolutely.
So finding those like-minded individuals, chipping at the programs to make sure that they're very efficient, and then finding those teams to deploy in other areas.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
what
great.
we're up to. And it's what I do every day. I enjoy it.
Yes, that's it. And that's great. That's such a big deal to enjoy what you're doing. Like people say it and that becomes like a cliche, like live your passion. And a lot of people, don't, because they either don't believe that they can, or, they just aren't equipped to make their passion into something monetary that can bring them some monetary value. But the fact that you've landed into that position and you put yourself into that position where you're able to live your passion is phenomenal, and then to help other people, like to set people up essentially is what you're doing. You're giving them everything they need to set them up to be able to live a better life, living out their passion. Because it's every day people wake up, the masses, the majority of America wake up every day unhappy, just going through the motions, and it affects them personally, affects their marriages, it affects the kids. The kids are watching, and it's the cycle of they're working so hard that they're mentally and physically exhausted to where they don't even want to do their passion as a hobby anymore. Like they just want to use the weekend to suppress and drink away and sit in front of the TV and, prepare again for Monday, just, yeah, there's got to be more entities and people that want to do what you're doing, create a better way to battle the systemic problem.
And there's a lot. And I'm like, every day more hope. I get more and more hope just because there's more and more people that think the same way and see the need and are looking to do something about it. Like as bad as the world may seem, and as all the bad things that are going on, there is a lot of good things, a lot of good people too. You know,
Yeah.
it's a matter of us communicating with each other, working together, and just being relentless, you know, for the greater good of humanity, because
Right.
the people on the other side are relentless on the other side. So we need some light workers to be just as relentless, you know, and just be savages for good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. What does your like day to day look like? Like, what is an average day for you? What is that from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep? What do you do on an average day?
Get up something like between like 3:30 and 4, and kind of that's like my me time. You
Okay.
know, not family's not up yet, baby's not up yet. You know, just kind of my time to, I guess, access the ether of knowledge without a lot of distraction and a
Okay.
lot of other people accessing it too. So get up then, you know, kind of set my intentions for the day, which is really like, that sounds like a broad term, but really just like looking at what my schedule is, what calls will I have today, what is the objective, what, you know, do I have some free time in there, what do I want to do during that free time? Is it just, if I got a block between calls, like, bro, just chill. Like, you don't gotta fill your whole schedule up. Like I've seen that people who try and make their schedules too busy, that's a trauma response.
Yes. My
You know what
brother
I'm
does
saying? Like,
that, actually, yes. He thrives off of chaos. And that was something also for me. Like, I don't thrive off of chaos and I need a plan. And like you said, if there's a break in between, then no, I don't need to fill it up with more chaos to feel, you know, because again, I think a lot of that is like, I don't want to think about anything else. So I'm just going to busy my mind and busy my body with everything. Because otherwise, that idle time is negative, not good.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I was so busy at Milton Hershey School. I was distracting myself from being homesick.
Yes.
There was
Yes.
trauma that I was trying to not feel. Like, you know, that's so there is certainly a difference between being busy and being productive too.
Yes.
You know, so like it's kind of counterintuitive in reality. By doing less, you can achieve more.
Yeah. Yes.
That makes sense, right? Less on your plate, so you can focus on some of the most important.
You're not
And
spinning all these wheels and giving 25% to everything
yeah,
instead
and
of,
so my day. So I guess I'll continue that, right? Set my intentions early. Do like meditation, which some people don't like. It could even be like people hear meditation and get real out of whack about it. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, bro, just do it. Like, just do the precursors of meditation. Just count your breath in for 10 seconds, hold it for 10 seconds, and then release for 10 seconds. Then like count. Because while you're counting, you can't think about other stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
So, now there is an exercise, obviously, meditation. You want the thoughts to come in, observe them for what they are, let them go. Right. And I think that helps with day-to-day stuff. Like it helps you me personally, helps me to be unbothered.
Mm.
Or yeah, just like with situations, the same thing, like just how thoughts come in and go away when situations come up, like, you know, I observe them for what they are, maybe gain the value, the lesson, and then like it's gone. Like I'm not going to dwell on, you know, some stuff for a long time to start releasing these hormones that are now about to change my reality.
Right.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
I know the significance of that. Like that's, you're not going to mess with me. I'm unbothered. Like you can't rattle my, you know, because if I let you do that, then you're literally changing my world.
Yes.
Like literally, like why am I gonna let you change my world? That doesn't make
Right.
sense. I don't, you know. So anyway, so intention, meditation is very important. Then Genesis normally wakes up, you know, like 5:30 or 6. So I'll pop up, you know, pop her up, go grab her a bottle, and then lay down, and she'll go back to sleep for like another hour or two, until mom wakes up. Um, and then I have my meetings that start at 9 a.m. And then I have a strict, like I go from 9 till 12, and I
Okay.
take a lunch break for myself.
Yeah.
It's kind of a chill break, or sometimes calls will run into that time periodically, which is all right. And then I pop back on around, I think like 1:30, go till about 6. And then once 6 hits, like anybody who's working, and it's 6 Pacific time, which is interesting to work with a
Ah,
lot of people on the East Coast, but I'm in Seattle. So there's like my calls start at 9 a.m. my time, but that's like noon.
you're still in Seattle. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I this whole time I thought you're here in Harrisburg. Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so you're Pacific time. Wow,
Yep.
I did not know you were still there. Okay.
Yeah. So you know, calls start, lunch break, have some more calls. And then once 6 hit, it's like strict family time. You know what I'm saying? So it's downstairs, hanging out with, I mean, Genesis normally she'll bust in here like bang, bang, ah, da, 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 da. And I've learned how to keep her from getting in. But I'll see her throughout the day, which is great because I quote unquote work from home, I guess. But to get some time with her after my work hours is great. You know, go down, we hang out, read books. She's so smart. She's already knows how to count up past 10. She's got her ABC tuned down, not all the letters in the right place, but she's kind of got the, you know, she's just really, really smart. So that's that's definitely the best part of my day, is just to kind of hang out with her and kind of see what she's learned. Like, you know, mom does a great job of educating her really all day, and then engaging with her and being there. And luckily, you know, I was able to have a successful football career, so neither of us have to go out of the house to work. Right. So we are both here. Now I'm in my office most of the day. Right. But whenever I do get a break, right, sometimes between those meetings, I'll go out, grab Genesis for a bit. That allows Jossie to go maybe get a nap, or you know, get some time off, which helps her recharge, and then she can do what she needs to do. Because, you know, there's an interesting dynamic between the two of us. Like, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing with the bridge, which is big, it's robust, it's a lot. And it's also something that she's always wanted to do. And we've had different conversations. Like, she wants to get more involved, you know, with the bridge. And I'm like, you know, there's different areas where you'll be very beneficial. I was like, but the way you being involved with the bridge the best is actually locking in on Genesis. Because that gives me the peace of mind that she's not at a daycare with a babysitter, or at a school, or like she's here with you. And I was like, that gives me the freedom to lay in on the bridge and let it, you know, accelerate as it is. So what we've done is, she's an executive director of our nonprofit. So she does a lot of the nonprofit stuff. Like this past weekend, we had a homeless, or not, I guess I gotta stop calling it homeless. Not everybody was homeless, but Thanksgiving meal giveaway. And then we gave away resources and sleeping bags to the homeless and things like that. So she worked, you know, putting together the logistics for that. And I'm like, look, I was like, that's perfect, because like I have a lot of my own decision makings and plans to go on the for-profit side of this thing. And I was like, you give me the blueprint, the plan, like, let me know. Right. And I'm very adamant, like, look, you tell me what I need to do. Even like stuff around the house, like I make sure that she knows, like, hey, like, I'm not like, I'm your muscle. Like, we're moving like a tree into a different plant or something.
Right.
And I'm like, look, you talk me through this. Like, I'm not in your head. I know you got the logistics, the blueprint, everything, but I need you to articulate that to me and pretend I'm dumb. I'm your muscle. So just tell me the plan and I'll do it. Right. And so, you know, you just got to figure out, you know, how to work. Cause there's other times that I'll take the lead on it, where she needs me to take the lead and tell the, you know, give the blueprint, be the leader. You know, it's not like all the time one person is this role or one person is that role. It is duality. Like it's yin and yang. Like, it's this constant flow of energy, and me like monitoring, you know, the energy that she's giving off will give me a better understanding of how I should respond. Like there's like, I mean, it's a day to day, every day you learn more. Like there's times where I'm like, all right, whether I'm right or want to say something or not, let me just be quiet. You know, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to be right in this moment for what? To cause an argument, or to cause this or cause that. Right. And it takes a lot of, I'd say, I guess, emotional maturity to get to that point. And there's other times where I just blurt out like, no, like, and then like we get in, you know, a little friction, and then, you know, we get over it. But it's from her perspective, I try my best to like look at our daughter. You know, like, that's bigger and better than the bridge can ever be. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is like, you know, so just trying to reaffirm, I guess, my gratefulness of her commitment as a mom. You know, because it gives me the peace of mind to be able to execute on some of the things that we want to do as a family. Absolutely. And we kind of look at it as like, you know, there's seasons. Like, you know, there's times where I was in football season, I was busy, you know, 16, 18 hours a day with recoveries and things like that. And then going back every day, we have one day off, which isn't a day off. It's also more, you know, recovery things that we got to do. So like during the football season, like the 3 or 4 months of football season, like it's not like we interacted much. I'm like, so kind of look at it like that way. Like we got different seasons. I like right now, like you're in a season of locking in on, well, I mean, we've moved past, but like in the very beginning of Genesis being born, you know, with like the breastfeeding and like being a prisoner to your child, like they're touching you literally 24/7. And I'm like, hey, like, I know you probably don't want to hear this, right? But it won't last forever. Like this moment is very important for the development of our child. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then I'm like, look, you don't have to work, you know, as much as you want to go work, you don't have to. But then she gets pressure from like, social media and like other moms, right? Which I've learned that too. Like moms be putting pressure on other moms about like,
The
hey,
mom
the
thing,
whole stay-at-home thing and the whole work, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is there gotta be beef between the two? Like it's
right?
different, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes I think she gets pressure from outside sources, and so we find different ways that if she wants to start a little business at home, then by all means, like, let's do it. I'm a graphic designer and video production here. I'll create a logo, website. Look, if you want to go push products, by all means, do your
Yeah,
thing. I'll invest the initial capital,
yeah,
so you can get it started. Like, we're in a position, like, if you want to do that, you can. You don't, it's not, I don't look at you as any less of a person by not doing it,
right.
by doing it. Like, if it's for your mental health, which is a lot of it, that's what we've gotten to. She's like, it just gives me an outlet. I'm like,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I was like, look, you don't even got to monetize the outlet either, but if you do, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, right. And it's so funny. That's another thing that, people just don't talk about enough or hardly at all. I rarely come across anybody talking about postpartum, like rarely, even on social, unless it's like a specific group that wants to talk about it. Um, I personally, I'll admit, before becoming a mom, never even thought about it. I actually thought postpartum just meant you didn't like your kids and you might kill them. Beyond that, I did not know anything else, and even before having kids, I actually never wanted kids. That was something I told Chris before we even got married or anything, was like, I never want kids. Was just not in my line of sight, period. But of course, he's very persuasive and convinced me along the way, eventually, because he's the only child and I come from a family of 7. So I think the guilt as we got a little bit older of like him not having to be able to continue his, generation or legacy or lineage.
That's valid.
That was really the only reason, I'll be honest. Like he gave me all these other reasons of family and legacy and this and that. Did not care about any of that. I was very selfish in like, I don't want to have to deal with another human. And I was also fearful again of the world based on my upbringing and all of it. I don't want to bring another human into this world. Like I have no urge to do that. I almost feel like I'm doing them a disservice if I do that, And that was my belief all along. But really it was just, he wants to continue his lineage and I will try my best to do that, But then once Zamina came, and I also was like, okay, once we have a kid, like I'm not going to be staying home. I hope you know that, like I'm going to be working and blah, 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 because my significance, like what I felt gave me significance in the world was working and making money. Like I was just always this money making machine, and when she came, he was great enough I told him like, I want to go right back to work. So, once we're all healed up and everything, that's what I did. Like I went right back into the business and he was staying home with Zamina. And after like 2 months, I was like snapping on everyone, just snapping at the people in my organization, even some clients who were annoying me maybe. I was just snapping. And I'm like, why am I snapping like this? This is crazy. And I learned that like I was still like reeling from the trauma because before Zamina came, we had 8 miscarriages before her. And then she finally came and we were so afraid that like there's a disease that runs in my family and my niece had it. So I was like waiting for a seizure to come or like something to happen to her. And I was like internalizing all of it because I don't talk much about what I'm feeling, I just internalize. And it was just coming out and like snapping crazy on people. So I came home one day and I'm like, you know what? I think you're going to need to go back out because we're probably going to lose our whole organization if I continue on this way. I guess I do got to be home. But then even being home, it was just depression. I'll be honest. Like I didn't want anybody to touch her. I thought if she gets coughed on, she'll die. People were judging me because I would be like, don't touch her hands. Like if you touch her, don't touch her face. She eats her hands and don't touch her face with your hands. Or can you wash your hands before? Or I'd walk around with hand sanitizer. And this is 2017, obviously before any pandemic. So like my own like coworkers and other moms especially would be like, oh, you're too much. Like, you can't be like that. And like, they would just come off so condescending. And it just made me, till now, I talk about it and I get like choked up, because I'm like, why did people treat me this way? And maybe I wasn't vocal enough, that deep down inside, I'm crying myself to sleep. And I'm so scared of losing this now child that I have. So maybe I should have vocalized that a little more for people to take it a little more easy on me. But I feel like people already, especially my close, tight circles, everyone was there knowing we went through 8 miscarriages. Like, all these women probably should have been like empathetic and in tune enough to know, wow, she probably lost all these. She's probably so worried that now that this one's here, like, she could potentially, of course, she's going to be a little overprotective with germs, But the people would literally come around me and see my energy, or like, see how protective I was, and not the same Zahraa anymore, so much more fearful and like timid kind of thing. And they would literally treat me like I was contagious. That is the best way to put it. Like, I literally was contagious. They just did not want to be around me. It was almost like, kind of, and I'm just like, this is so sad. And it just fed into that depression. And then I isolated like 6-7 months, hardly leaving the house with her. My mom would even do it to me. Like, it was just so, and it took maybe like 2 years, honestly, of being a stay-at-home mom with her to even talk business again, to even be in that mindset. I didn't even look at our finances. Every little thing could put me into this like tunnel of fear, isolation. Oh my God, the world is closing in on me, And had I had like a person or someone to like help me through this, that process could have been so much easier. But 100%, I could tell you I was alone, aside from Chris, and he couldn't understand it because he wasn't going through it. He could just try to be as supportive as he could, but no woman talked to me about it. No one understood. And that baffled the shit out of me. Like, how can this be? We all go through the same trauma, and having kids is not, to some women, it may be a beautiful thing, and I don't take that away, but a child still comes out of your body, and you still go through those 9 months, and the doctors and hospital and delivery, and then you got to come home with this baby, and it's just like so much. And all the life changes, the marital changes, like your personal identity shifts. Like, no one prepared me for that. I knew, like, of course, I'd have to maybe stop working, or I knew there would be a shift, but no one really prepares you for a true identity shift, to where I had no idea who I was anymore. I felt like a complete nobody in the world. And that, I believe, part of mental health is so important. And that's probably something I've been thinking about doing, is creating more things about postpartum on my thing. But it's hard to talk about. But if some other mom or woman or something would have been there for me instead of judging and that thing. And I saw other women, in my industry is very cutthroat. It's finances, everyone wants to show off. They think, oh, when you make it, it's about showing off and being arrogant. And that's never been me, So like, that was I would see all these women still like in business and, paper pushing for their husbands and stuff like that. And even though they weren't on my level ever, just them even still being involved made me feel so shitty about myself. Like, why can't I get my brain to think business anymore? Like, zero support. In the end, zero. Now, obviously, it's so much better. I'm back with business. And now I'm like, oh, it's even better for me, because now I'm a mom and I can client all these other moms, and I have such an in now with families, because now I have a child of my own. So it's gotten us even better. But I have to say, those first 2 years, man, were the hardest years of my life, I would say. And I've had a rough life. So for that thing to be like the roughest 2 years, unbelievable. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. What women go through, I have such an admiration now for moms, like an incredible admiration for what it is that moms have to deal with, the pressure, like you said, going back to work, not going back, daycare, non-daycare, this, that. There's guilt on all sides. It's like you have no way without getting guilt, whether it's guilt you bestow on yourself or guilt someone else puts on you. It's just, it's crazy, unreal. So kudos to your wife to be holding it down. Kudos to you to support her in that, and let her know, like, the partnership, because it's so important to know that there's still significance and you still contribute in more ways than you would even be contributing if you did this, because that was one for me, like, zero daycare. Like, we're not doing it. I don't care. I don't trust people. I will never leave my daughter, who cannot speak, and tell me if something happened to her, in someone else's hands. Like, I just won't do it. I would live in my car before I would have put her in daycare, And that's, yet again, some women don't have that luxury. Thank God we had a business to sustain us, and, Chris can continue on, and we were sustaining ourselves. And I had that luxury of being able to say, I'm not putting her in daycare. My heart goes out to those women who must work because they got to bring in money. Either they don't have a partner, or their partner's income just isn't enough to sustain the entire family, and they have to put their child in daycare. Like that, I can't even wrap my head around that. That my heart probably goes out most to those women who have to sacrifice that part and go back to work. Unbelievable.
There's systemic things in that too, like just the corporate work day in America, working 8 hours a day, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just interesting structure things like that, because in Europe they don't do that. Like, they're off, for lunch every day, like a big chunk of time.
Yeah.
Off on Wednesdays, like it's centered around the family. And then kind of to wrap it back to the bridge, like the bridge eco village, like the village aspect of it is exactly that. Like, we used to live in tribes and villages and things, like, so if you did want to, do it, you had grandma or auntie or whatever in close proximity, right? It takes a village to build an eco village, is what we say. So, like, we're bringing that village mentality kind of back too. Like, you might be a little bit, more likely to let your kid go to, let's call it not a daycare, but an early childhood learning center.
Yeah.
Right? While you go to the incubation acceleration courses to get your business better. Right? Knowing that right down the hall is your dog.
Yes.
You ain't got to tell me what happened. There's a camera in there, right?
Exactly.
Combine technology with it, or pop on your phone and you can see, what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Let's provide the environment that is conducive of what we want, the outcomes that we want,
Yes.
And then I think, to your point though, women, definitely, and even, men too, like men to men. Like, whenever I see a new dad, first thing I say, because I wasn't the best at it, I had to learn myself, like, bro, you are on duty 24/7. Go get water, go get food, go get snacks, like anything and all things that's needed. Because in the beginning, like, I was trying to, like,
figure it out.
Yeah, and Jossie's super independent herself. So, like, I'm like, yo, you just got like abdominal surgery. Like, they cut into your whole body, into your muscles. Like, you can't be like getting up and stuff. Like, ask me, because she's so independent. I'm like, yo, like, you can talk to me, like, ask me, but she's like, I don't think I should need to ask you. So now I'm like, I need to observe more and like figure out what she needs before she needs it.
Right.
There you go. And every day is a bit different.
Yeah.
You're learning, you're growing. Like, you're both new parents together.
Yes.
Like,
it's a whole new, like, it really is a whole new world. Like, people can prepare you all they want, really, but there's no amount of preparation. I don't think there absolutely should be more, but in the end, there is really no amount that is good enough to prepare you for what you're about to experience. A lot of it is just going through it and learning as you go. But the pressures that are put on us during this time is like so unnecessary. We're already going through a rough time of learning. Like, we don't need the extra pressure and the guilt and everything else that we put on each other.
I actually just the other day, I like kind of snapped at my mom, because I was FaceTiming her and I was talking to Jossie. I think we were talking about logistics of our nonprofit event that we're about to have, and she was just kind of asking me some questions to confirm some things. And Genesis was kind of between us, and I had the phone pointed at Genesis so her grandma could see her, and she's like, kind of running between the two of us, and she's like chewing on like this little like toy that she has, and just kind of chewing on it. And my mom is like, my mom, what did she see? She's like, what is she chewing on? Right. So I kind of looked and I was like, oh, it's her little drumstick. Right. Just kind of mentioned it. So Josh and I obviously have an eye on her. Right. So, then my mom like says it like 3 more times. And I'm like, Mom, like, child, like, I don't need your backseat parenting. Like, I know how to parent my child. Like, we see her. She's all right. And then my mom gets kind of butthurt. She's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go. And I'm like, Mom, just like relax, like, we got it. Like, I appreciate, the input here and there, but like the best experience is lived experience. Like, you don't think that we've kept her alive for 2 years, see that she's chewing on her toy. Like, it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be passive aggressive like we're being neglectful to our children.
Right.
Like, you see what's going on here.
Yes. Yep, exactly. I literally had to stay away from my mom while we were living in California. I had to like stay away because it was constant criticism, constant this, she's not warm enough, she's not this. And I didn't breastfeed. I tried my hardest, like it. And that's so funny. That's another thing people don't talk about. In my mind, I thought breastfeeding was just going to be so natural and easy. Like, I was like, golly, like as soon as she tried at the hospital and it wasn't happening, and I'm like, what the heck? And they're bringing in all these different nurses to help me, and it's still not working. And like the guilt you feel all on your own just from everything we've learned. And of course, breastfeeding is amazing. We know that's a fact, but then that inadequacy or the incompetence you feel because it's just not happening. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I wasn't making enough milk. She wasn't latching. I wasn't making enough milk. It was just a constant. And I tried like 6 weeks. And finally, I just gave up. Like, she's hungry. You know what I mean? I'm going to feed her because she is hungry and I want to feed her. And I'm not just going to keep trying this. She needs to eat more, And when I got home and my mom realized that I wasn't breastfeeding, it was like I killed someone. I was just like, did you even ask me, how I feel about this or anything? Or it was just, I can't believe you didn't even try. Blah, 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 blah. Your daughter needs this, the formula. And I'm just like feeling smaller and smaller and smaller. Like, and then she's telling me about all the milk she created. And I used to get so much milk. And I'm just like, okay, my heart is hurting. I'm just going to go. When your mom said, I'm just going to go because I can't. Otherwise, I'm going to snap on you, or I'm going to break down and feel way worse than I already feel. And other women do it to other women. Like, I can't. Yeah. Not like I purposely was like, I'm not going to breastfeed, No, like I tried and I feel like crap that I can't. Like, don't, make it worse by giving me your input and opinion. And, yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand. People should be a little bit more like educated or empathetic or something to have that higher emotional intelligence of, obviously I want to breastfeed my daughter, obviously, you know what I mean? Like, have some more emotional intelligence to know that you should not be coming down on me like this. Other women shouldn't be, all that.
No, then yes. Then we've got. I
can imagine what men go through, because men don't talk about it. Like, it's like no space for a man to even feel free to talk about fatherhood and the effects that's had on him, without looking like he's sensitive or something.
I mean, no, that's true. That's true. And what I'm about to say is not something that most men realize, but every man, you are half a woman. Mm. You need to lean into your divine feminine periodically.
Yes,
yeah. Get out of that full masculine, overbearing, protective, and providing side, and look at the more empathetic side of things. And get in touch with your emotions. And just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't. You are half of a damn woman.
Yes.
So tap in, right? Like, do the work so you know how to do that, and it make you, and in reality, it makes you more attractive to women.
Yes.
A man that has the emotional intelligence and can articulate some of his thoughts and express the way he feels, you're not sensitive.
Right.
You're whole. Yes. You're a whole person.
Yes. That you're stronger for it. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times I think men have come to feel that, if they're not strong for the family and not showing the weakness and, fear or whatever else, that, their whole family is not gonna look down on them, or also feel even more scared than they already are. I tell Chris, like, sometimes in my time of fear or whatever it is we're going through, sometimes if you come in on that with me and show me a little bit of that, you kind of feel some of this way too, it even empowers me to get some strength to be like, okay, let me feel a little more like hero, or let me be strong for him. You know what I mean? And it could be so powerful for a little bit of vulnerability to motivate or encourage someone else to find strength within them when they didn't think there was any. Yeah, it's very, but we will break these things eventually. It starts with ourselves and within our own family and our own system, and then it'll slowly get into our friends and the people we hold close, and hopefully start to create businesses like you're saying, and webinars and everything to start to share this wealth of knowledge we've come to learn through our experiences.
That's it. And that's the fourth part of the whole man whole man concept, whole child experience, is that community engagement and kind of giving back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just enough, like, for us to figure out how to navigate through different environments and industries, but can you make that information and that blueprint palatable enough for the next generation so that we don't lose our teachings?
Yes.
It's very important for us to pass on our teachings, and then almost more important, definitely more important, to pass on our planet. But
Yeah.
I call that generational actualization. I added a couple levels to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
His top was self-actualization, but I don't think that humans look to focus on self. That's our issue right now. But I think we should look to focus on community and generational things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that's top of the line pyramid. We got to take care of food, shelter, water, education, environment, and then we can sit around the fire and talk about, the stars.
Right. Yeah. And passing down all these things. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love what you're doing with the bridge. I think it's phenomenal. And I can't wait to see, where else it takes you and how far you go into international, into the world, changing India. I mean, if any country needs something like that, India, oh my God, India is so populated.
I'm in touch with their royal family, which is probably a huge benefactor of their caste system, but we'll see if we can equalize some of those things.
Yes, yeah, that is great. Yeah. And it's so many Milts are straight out of Africa. Like, it's unbelievable how while we were there, no one knew. No, we didn't even know. Like, no one even knew culture, and that everyone thought, if you were in the Milt and you were black, African American, like here. And the majority of Milts were actually outside of America. Like, their families were either from Africa and still lived there, or they were born there and came here, or they were born here but still have so many families there. Like, and no one even taught them how to embrace it. Now, obviously, because culture has become even more trendy, which has helped so much, that culture has become so trendy. Just culture itself, representing where you come from. And this, honestly, before 9/11, no one even knew what Syria was. No one knew what an Arab was. Like, 9/11 made everyone know, oh, Arab, oh, I thought you were Spanish. Like, really. And then once we left Milton Hershey and now we're adults, and I'm like, oh my God, you're from Sierra Leone, you're from Ghana, oh, you speak a different language, what the heck? Like, no, the fact that, and maybe that was age. I don't know if, like, outside of Milton Hershey, if that age range knew, like, their culture. Like, I knew a lot about my culture because my family's so cultural, we had to speak Arabic. I had to pray 5 times a day. Like, my mom cooked, she didn't speak English. So I knew my culture, you know what I mean? But I wonder a lot, even outside Milton Hershey, I think they just did not know how to teach us to embrace it, because they probably didn't know. But I wonder, like, for that age range from, before college, if at that time back then, because now I'm sure they are very aware because of social stuff, but did they know their culture? Like, did they really know? You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. And that's so important. Like, to talk about your identity, like, that is so important, because it could lead to, like, feeling lost, not knowing where to fit in, how to fit in, who to fit in with, trying to fit in the wrong place, like, to just be in tune. And that for me is important for Zamina. Like, I want to teach her where her culture comes from the food to the language to Chris's family to his lineage to all of it. Like I think your culture really is like one of the roots of your identity, you know? So that's big for me.
It is.
Or big for, I think, you know, honestly, I think it's big for business. I've always been a big believer in diversity. And I think the more diverse your business is, the more it will flourish and grow and be a huge competitor against the rest. Diversity is going to be that thing. Diversity is what really makes America as great it is. All these people come from different countries to come here. And that's really what made America great. It wasn't America. It was all the immigrants that came here and did what they did to make such a diverse country. I mean, yeah, it really is it's not America at all. America did nothing actually except be a place. It was the immigrants who came and diversified this country to make it what it is. Yeah, diversity is huge. Yeah, yeah.
Humans doing what humans should do on Earth.
Mm.
And given opportunities and resources. I mean, in reality, we should all be down by the equator, not wearing many clothes, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and living in villages, right? But
Yeah.
This life and society and civilization that we've created has certainly clouded things,
Yeah.
and has caused kind of a vacuum of happiness.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it does.
So I don't know if we can get not necessarily go back to old times, because I mean there were certainly a lot of things that weren't great, but
Yeah.
I think, you know, moving forward, becoming a bit more self-sufficient, but also combining that with like off the grid with technology and education. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's important. That's how you spread culture. Because as of now, we're all spread out. Like you got a house that's like, if you're in suburbia,
Right.
that's 5 miles from somebody, or who knows what it is. Like you're just not around each other, not communicating with each other. COVID has made that even worse.
Right.
Like we actually do a lot better as humans when we're in close proximity to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Fellowship is how we really thrive. Just like plants will die probably if we were in isolation long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then if they played rock music and said bad things to you,
our life expectancy would be like 20. By 21, you're dead.
shoot, back in the day.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. Resourcefulness, though, is one thing that I've always loved. I love feeling resourceful, and I want to pass resourcefulness to Zamina. Like that is very important for me. Convenience is great. Like technology is amazing. All the wonderful things we've grown from, you know, convenience and technology. Absolutely. I'm all for it. But I'm not one to be like this over this. Like, nope, I need to be able to feel that I'm okay if we have a blackout. I will live and I can plant and I will eat and I can, you know, figure out ways to hustle something up, whether it's money, food, you know, fire, whatever. That resourcefulness, that primitive, you know, way of life, I think is so important. Like when people lose that, and that's what I'm afraid for our youth, is for them to lose that. Like that, they cannot lose that.
Don't know how to do it in the metaverse.
Yeah. The youth, it's amazing where they are now, honestly. Like they're 50 times more advanced than we were. You know what I mean? These kids are so incredibly smart. It's crazy. But again, it's like, it's great to grow that way. It is, but they're also losing empathy. Like they're so self-absorbed. Like you have a bunch of narcissists that are walking around and they're 12. Like what is happening? What is going on?
It's you be a narcissist at 12? Sheesh.
Yeah, like it starts so early now. You're like, golly. They're like literally come off like superior to you, and you're a grown adult and you're 12. Like, how are you acting superior to me or coming off in this, like, it's just there, that energy. I don't know where it all comes from. And you know what's funny? I always believe that daycare is a big contributing factor to kids being a little more cold, less empathetic, like just less soft, you know? And I attributed that to, you know, when you go to a daycare, you're not expecting these workers to be loving and kissing and encouraging and all these words of affirmation to each and every single child. One, I don't want you kissing all over my kid. The words of affirmation, great, but don't touch my kid with those lips, you know? So obviously I wouldn't want that. But if a child is lacking that for 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, like, how is that affecting their development? Because I could tell you, Zamina doesn't go an hour without a kiss and a hug and a squeeze and a touch and all the words of that. I wake up in the morning, you're so beautiful, like all day, every day. One, I never got that. And I know what it's done to my self-worth and how I used to view myself as inferior to everyone else. So I make it a conscious thing. Like, I will always affirm her and I will always touch her in these ways, because I know the developmental factor. But I can only, and the majority of kids are in daycare because that's the system. It's what's like caused the majority of moms and dads to have to rely on daycare in order to continue their lifestyle. And then, like, you got all these kids who haven't been touched.
So you're saying if mom and dad were educated on, let's call it a side hustle that could make them a substantial amount of money to become, let's call it financially free, where they don't need to rely on an employer or the hours of work, they could essentially be at home, be involved with their kids' lives, and not have these kids learning from other kids and other people who don't care about them, right? So we can affect an entire generation by changing the corporate structure.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yep. And you've already alluded to all that before. Yes, absolutely. It's unreal. Like, daycare, I think is a huge issue, like huge developmentally. And these are like the earliest years of a child's life, when they say scientifically, you know, their brain is like, these first 5 years is where it's at. You know what I mean? Which I believe and I don't believe. I think in certain areas, yes, certain areas, no. But I think emotionally, yes, absolutely. Like, that emotional development of a touch, just like plants. Like, I dust my plants, I touch them while I pick the fruit. I say, thank you, I love you, you're so kind, you're so strong. If a plant needs it, like, a child needs it. You know what I mean? Like,
remember, we're 75 to 80% water.
Yeah, like,
it goes back to changing the structure of our entity. Like, it's powerful.
Yeah. And we are like 100% love. And I can only imagine how much goes on in a daycare. You know, like, I don't care if it's the best daycare in the whole world. Like, it's not mom and dad. And I know it's not mom and dad. So, you know, of course they get the social aspect, but, you know, yeah.
Like, there should low key, like in the corporate structure, be like 3 years of leave for mom and dad.
Absolutely. Yes. I 100% believe that. And all companies that are big to where they are can absolutely sustain that.
Yeah.
There's so
they
many.
would retain their workers and they would get better access to talent. Like, if I'm a mom and I know a company is, I'm definitely going to, and I'm coming, like, I might even come back early. Like, all right, you give me 3 years, I'll be back sooner than that, but thank you. Yes. And they probably have a daycare or early childhood learning center at the job, which why don't more corporations do that? Like,
yeah,
that's
University of Phoenix does that, or University of Penn, they have that. I thought that was incredible.
If I was an employer, right, and you were an employee, and I was like, hey, we want to take, let's call it $200 from every one of your paychecks, but that gives you free childcare here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mom would be like, please, yes.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know, male, pale, and stale, they don't think that way.
You don't think, yeah, exactly. Just think about the money. And that is such a stupid, small way of thinking, because happier employees mean more productivity, better productivity. Yep. Like, it's like, the more you invest for their personal well-being, the better they will give you result. Like,
so when corporations invest intentionally in their infrastructure, like Hershey,
yeah, yeah, unbelievable. Yeah,
it's almost like the answers are there. We just gotta do it.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's why it gives me hope every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, to share what the bridge is and what it will continue to be into the future, really in perpetuity. Like Hershey set up Hershey. I think it gives people hope.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that makes sense. Yes. I want to live there. I want to, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's build it. I was privileged enough
Yeah.
to go live in a mansion my whole life
Right.
and get a scholarship to go to college and then go play in the NFL. Like, very, very privileged life and
Yeah.
not the average life. So everything in my power that I can do to contribute back to
Right.
provide those environments, moreover, then
Yeah.
what I'm doing. And people, they vibe with it. Like I said, this day and age, I think there's even more people that do. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Like I said, it gives me hope every single day, more and more hope. Not that I'm not hopeful, like
Yeah.
hope is a very good thing, right?
Yeah.
And then seeing the hope in people's eyes, like as they're like, oh wow, yes, like
Yeah.
that there is even more fulfilling,
Right.
to give other people hope.
Right.
To have a
Imagine like Milton Hershey hardly did any marketing. Like what before in our time, like they
still
hardly
though.
did any marketing and they still hardly do, right? Like you don't see commercials and all kinds of stuff about MHS. And so like more people could know about it, but don't. So imagine with the level of marketing and advertising and promotion that you're going to be putting into the bridge that you're already putting, how many more people will see it, not just in PA, but as you expand, like it's going to help. Even imagine if more people, like when I tell someone about Milton Hershey, they've never heard of it.
No.
Never heard of it. Even in Pennsylvania, I tell people about it and they still never, oh, Milton Hershey, huh? And I'm like, how do people not know about this amazing, Hershey chocolate? Yeah. Okay. The founder of Hershey chocolate made Milton Hershey. And then I got to talk about it and talk about all these amazing things the school does. And then they're like in disbelief. But like, imagine if Milton Hershey actually did market, and I'm sure they don't for a reason because of the type of what they're trying to do, but imagine if they did, like they'd have to
I know a place that they should.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. So yeah, with the marketing and everything, like you're not keeping the bridge a secret, you know what I mean? Like there is nothing, no trust or deed or anything holding you back from just exploding in marketing. And so that's just going to reach so many people. It's ridiculous. The numbers are just going to be so crazy. Yeah.
That's the true ROI, return on impact.
Yeah. That's great. That's really great. Yeah, I'm super excited for you. I'm grateful for what it is you're doing. There needs to be more entrepreneurs like you that are, thinking outside of their pockets and thinking more about the value they bring to people. Because in the end, that will fill your pockets more than you can even imagine.
Yeah, like I'll be a billionaire because I'll affect a billion lives.
Yes.
Not because I want to be, but that's just a product of what happens.
Right. Absolutely.
So focus on helping people and solving problems.
Yes, that's it. So I actually didn't, most of these questions that I had for you, honestly, you've answered in just our conversation alone. The one question that I did have was, if you were to think about the vision that you have for both your life and the bridge, how would you describe that vision for your legacy? What would you say about your vision for your legacy?
Very similar to Milton Hershey's, right? Like he set that thing up in a way that it will help people in perpetuity and not just lip service. Like $17 billion of an endowment is massive, and they don't spend like a lot of it at all. You know what I'm saying? Like that's get to a point where there's a business side of the bridge that's attached to the philanthropic arm that allows it to just continue as a system of empowerment. I think that's my main objective, and it's not there yet, but it will be.
Yeah.
Because then it can just turn, like if you throw a bridge into the middle of the Sahara Desert, right? Like a city should start to populate around it.
Right.
Like that's how it's packaged.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's accelerating rapidly. Like it's pretty cool, some of the conversations that I'm having with some people that I didn't really anticipate to have, at least not as soon as I'm having them. So very, very grateful, for the life that I've lived. I guess to give me the lived experience to want to do something like this. Literally every aspect of my life has contributed to part of the bridge, whether it be the capital that I got from, Seattle and San Francisco, or just living in those towns and seeing that the issues that I saw when I was younger still weren't affected, the environment of Joe Paterno and the players I met, the perseverance through adversity of injuries, commitment to mission, all the different attributes you learn from being an athlete. Go back to Milton Hershey, being stripped away from my family at a very young age, had to grow up quickly, become more independent, but still lived in parallel with the anguish of the inner city, right? While seeing the other side of it, the privilege of Milton Hershey and Pleasantville, Chocolate Town, USA, but
Right.
seeing that the difference was really the resources, the opportunity, the environment, the culture,
Yeah.
and those are things that can be certainly affected by individuals.
Yeah.
There are intangibles to things, but those are not intangible. We
Right.
can see those and we can affect those. So I actually am an introvert, and I don't like talking to a lot of people. Like, it actually, like, it drains my battery a lot. Like, I gotta go, if I go to an event, I'm hermit for like 3 weeks after, like full
Yeah.
monk status to recharge. But with this, right, this anointing of this and the life that I've had, it's like, okay, like, no, you got to push this thing forward, and like, it's needed, and like, there's not a lot of people out there that are doing what you're doing, why you're doing it. Like, there are vertical farms and housing and things being built, but for the wrong intentions and not in the proper areas, right?
Yeah.
Where there's a food desert and where there's environmental justice areas is where this vertical farm should go. But I guarantee you, because we've done the studies, that's not where they're at, or not where they're planning to be either,
Right.
right? Which is why that is
First thing,
attached to the bridge.
like, oh, there's no money here. It's money driven, as opposed to this is a necessity here, so we are going to make it work here. Yeah. And that's what I see already with your legacy. It's people will remember you by these impacts. It's, oh, he was a giver, he cared about his community. Like, that was the first place he went back to help, and that's legacy for me is so important. And I think, I'm afraid to die. I'll be honest. I don't know. I'm a believer in God and all of that, but death for me is a big fear. But what kind of like makes me feel a little better when that fear starts to get crazy is what I'm doing now to, like, at least leave a memory. Like, what will people remember me by? And that kind of helps alleviate like this, oh, where do we go after this? Where do we go? Because like that legacy, it's not just monetary legacy, oh, that has all this stuff to pass down, but it's like, when anyone talks about you, what are they gonna say? Oh, this person was funny, they're great, kind-hearted, this and that. Like, what will they say? And that to me is just so powerful. And literally, it's become like the driving force to deal with my fear of dying. And I think that only came because I've had so many near-death experiences. So it's become a thing. And that's my way of like helping that fear and like subside it, is just this, it's the inevitable. We all will die, and none of us know when we're going to die. But what can we control? We can control how we lived. So when we are out of here, it can at least still somehow be benefiting someone in some way, whether it's a memory, something we put in place to help all these people. Like, Milton Hershey will forever be alive, like forever and ever and ever. It's amazing. I don't think anyone in the world can, or I've never heard anyone say anything bad, negative about Milton Hershey. Like, and that's obviously, I don't know if I'll ever get to that level, but I just want to be able to have such a legacy to where people are like, I remember her for all good things, all great things. She brought people together, or, had a lot of value she brought to the world, something. And that's definitely what I see for you already. Like, people say Garry Gilliam, and the first thing is like, oh, he's doing something for the community, right? And that's the start of it. Like, that right there. It's not, I'll be honest, I hardly hear, oh, Garry Gilliam, that was the NFL guy, right? That was like maybe 5 years ago or something. Now, literally, you hear the word in the grapevine of the Milton Hershey grapevine. Now you start, oh, he's doing the thing in Harrisburg, right? Oh, he's doing that, blah, 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 and it's just a change thing. And not that being remembered in the NFL is not, it's amazing. Like, that's just yet another accomplishment. But to have it switch now to like something even greater, like, he's not just an NFL, star and retiree. Now they're remembering you for even more that you're doing. That's so important. Like, I must say, leaving without a legacy is probably the most wasteful thing in life, is to leave without some form of good legacy.
So true.
Yeah.
True. And I think that is part of, that generational actualization, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
who who are you beyond this generation and next generation? Are your teachings being passed? Right?
Yes.
Wait,
Yeah.
what you learned, did you pass it to your kids? Like, don't judge me by the businesses that I've created, anything that I've done in my life. Judge me by my kids
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
and
Yes.
what they do. That's what I'm excited to see. I want to see what Genesis does. That's when you can decide if I'm successful or not.
Yes, exactly. It literally is like the footprint of what you've left behind is just so, I think about it on such a deep level like that. And that's great because your kids are a spitting image of exactly everything you put into them. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, shoot, like people don't like, the generations below. Well, who are their parents?
Yeah.
They're us.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just focus on what you can control, which is the raising of our child,
Yeah.
kids that you have in close proximity to your family. Like, I like to say, like, shoot, I'm a CEO of my last name.
Yeah.
Like, not my dad, not my grandpa, not no other uncles. Like, nah,
Right.
me. I'm the CEO. Yeah,
That's
y'all
right.
can work under the family office, and this is what your role is. This is what I need you to do. And if you're not, then you don't get the benefits of being part of our family structurally that way. Like, and I learned that stuff from these affluent individuals. Like, family office, you don't even hear that word in the hood. What is a family office? You don't
Right.
even hear that in the NFL. Like, there's another echelon of wealth
Yes.
to talk
Right.
about family offices and preserving your wealth beyond 50 to 100 years, right? Multiple generations. If a generation is 20 years, like, that's 5 generations.
Right.
Like, like, like Milt Hershey got it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't have kids, but we are kind of his kids in a way, right? And he set the family wealth up so well
Yeah.
that it has this massive endowment that educates like you're like, what?
Yes.
You got it. Like, if you want any blueprint, replicate my man's blueprint. Like, that's and to your point, like, people not knowing about it, the school itself, even in Pennsylvania, I also think is part of this system. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, because I am relentless on sharing the story of
Yes.
Milton Hershey
Me
in
too.
Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I'm in some rooms like where people who are the Fortune 500, 100 CEOs, board members that can
Yeah.
build stuff like this, right? It clicks. And
Yeah.
that, I'm like, that's a cool spot to be at. Like, hey, look, I'm one of those kids that came from something that you could build.
Yes, absolutely. I think Oprah Winfrey is doing that. She's already done it. She's created like a school for girls. And
Yeah.
like literally, she was doing an interview and I was listening to her do this interview and I'm like, oh, that's like Milton Hershey, like, but for girls. Like, this is amazing that she decided to do something like this. And I think LeBron James, he created like a
Yep.
school, right? Or like a funding for the school.
No, he's good. It's the I Promise school or something like that in Akron, where he's from. Yeah.
Yes, like it's not easy, obviously, but it's easy. Like, especially if you're already in that position that you could just throw capital at it, you could throw partnerships. People know you. As soon as you have an idea, put it in front of people, they will say yes. There absolutely needs to be more stuff like this, and the more we talk about it and feed it in there, like, yeah, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I come out of my introverted shell to talk about it and share it and get the word out. So thank you for inviting me on the podcast to share a bit about myself and mindset, character, philosophy,
Yeah.
space,
Yes.
children, relationships. It was
It was a great talk, really amazing talk. I'm so glad you gave me all this time. You're amazing. And again, it speaks to your level of character that you would even provide all this time to my podcast and have this level of conversation with me. So I really, really appreciate it more than you know. It's awesome.
no thank you, great job with it.
Yeah, thank
Keep
you. I hope
keep it going.
Yeah, I hope it the main thing is just inspire more Milts, but it's to really just create a network for Milts to get more connected and inspired to do more things on their own, to collaborate, to do whatever. You see all these other prestigious universities and sororities and fraternities, and the value of a good fraternity and a sorority is endless. Like, it's endless. It's all about who you know and connecting them and That's why people join them, because in the end, later down the line, you're a part of a association and a network that could potentially help you in other areas of life. Milton Hershey Alumni Association can be exactly that. We are one of the biggest sorority fraternities out there. We just have to view ourselves in that manner and start to practice that, because I mean, look how many Milts go to the military. How many people in the military can become mentors to Milts who want to get into the military? How many people in these industries who have flourished, like Kay Oyegan is in, the Hollywood industry as a writer. She's sees how difficult it is. Now you have all these other creative Milts graduating who can, I have a mentor in Hollywood who can help me with this, or let me connect you with this person. You want to be an actor? You want to be a writer? Let me connect you with this other Milt. People in business doing phenomenal things. Again, why are we not utilizing each other to network and build this incredible system? I don't know why it hasn't been done, but I'm hoping that this podcast will help to play a role in that, some role, even if it's just get some light on people's businesses. Share. I'm constantly promoting people's businesses. Don't buy from Amazon, buy from this small business for Black Friday, help each other out. If you're doing so phenomenal, hire some Milts, we can be probably one of the most powerful networks out there with all the amazing things that Milts have within ourselves. That's why I said in the beginning, a Milt is so underestimated. We are so underestimated. We underestimate ourselves, let alone the world underestimating us. The moment we stop underestimating ourselves and each other will be the moment we catapult ourselves forward together. So that's what I hope, for our alumni association. Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. And as you drum up that culture, I'm going to give them a space to work together at.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the businesses that come from Milts working together, I mean, the Bridge is one of them.
Yes, exactly. And I've seen some of the other people I've already interviewed, especially in the younger class, which blows my mind. And I think the older classmen need to learn from the younger classmen, because you guys got it right. You guys graduated Milton Hershey and stayed connected, started to build together. This person is doing the marketing for this person and has no association in their business. They're just good at it. So they're helping this person. This person is helping with the video. Awesome. That is exactly what we need. And the younger classmen, I see it more in the younger classmen than I see it in the older classmen. So it's getting there. And it's funny because the older classmen, I feel like as soon as we left, we were I just want to go. I don't even want to see other Milts. We must have been so traumatized that but the younger classmen left happier, they transitioned better, and they stayed connected, and have healthy relationships with each other. Phenomenal. And that's the power of MHS.
Yeah. And to your point though, that our alumni network, we do need to facilitate some more things of us, aside from just homecoming. There should be other things that we do. That's part of having a family office too, is you have yearly traditions outside of holidays.
Yes.
And so if we look at Hershey as a family office, look at all the talent that is here and that network, valuable as heck. I know, and then that's Milton Hershey, and I can also say the same for Penn State. Penn State has the largest alumni network for universities.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm almost certain Milton Hershey's probably pretty dang high up there.
Yeah.
Maybe not because we don't have a ton of kids coming out of the school, but there's a lot, and what we're doing and where we're at and the education we got, our graduation rates, and then going on to college or trade schools or whatever else. That's the easiest pool of talent to pull from. That's when I was putting together the Bridge, I'm all right. I know people who are specialized in this and this and this, and
let's
go.
Awesome. Yes, and there's already connection. There's already something. It's not just picking a stranger out of a pool and being hopefully, I can trust you or something, and then we could build from there. But you already have this already established relationship, or history, it's just.
There is. I was back for homecoming. And kind of my not my first time going back to homecoming. I had a chance while I was playing once. My bye week like lined up perfectly with it, which was cool. But I never got to do all the other activities aside from the game. But this year I decided, maybe we'll go to like Hershey Park and go to the watch party and do some of those things. So at the watch party, and there weren't many Milts my age. It was all the older Milts, right? But they all knew me, which was kind of dope. Like, like your old, like your older brother or sister, like, I see what you're doing. And like we got into like the ins and outs of it, kind of like we just did because of Milt Hershey. We understand the significance of something like this. So like, we're just sitting there having real deep conversations, and I'd never met these people ever. And I mean, I feel like they felt like they know me because I guess we follow each other on Facebook or something. They see everything, and we're just having like a candid conversation. But I feel like I know them because the common denominator is the school. Like whether I know the life you had or didn't have before you went to the school or after, I have a really good idea.
Exactly. Yes.
So we can vibe on a lot of things.
Yes. Like really, I've never come across any other type of instant connection, even with motherhood. I mean, coming to Pennsylvania, I have to say, even though I wasn't looking forward to it in the beginning, was one of the best things for me as a mom, because it's hard enough making mom friends with strangers. Like, it's so tough. I could just literally, oh, there's this Milt here, Milt. Suddenly I have 10 new friends. Like, and we just pick up where we left off. Like, our kids are playing together. It's made me feel so much happier, more support. And that's just as a mom. I can only imagine like the business level of things. It's unreal.
So it sounds like I should create a few just strictly Milt bridges.
Yeah. That would be amazing, actually. Could you imagine? Golly. Run by Milts, because we've been there, we've done that, we know. Yes.
Not so far-fetched.
Yeah. Absolutely. We could teach other people a few things here and there. Yes, it's awesome.
No, Milt Hershey did the hard work for real, educating us through 12 years of grade school, giving us an opportunity to go get educated in secondary education. And then, but I mean, they've done a lot. Now there's time again for a bridge from Milt Hershey to the real world. Like, they've done the job of polishing up these diamonds. Now let's put it onto an engagement ring and present ourselves to the world.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what happens when you educate inner city kids.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So thank you. This was amazing. Before I let you go, though, I want you to talk about any social media platforms, any website you want people to know, anything you basically want people to know about you and your businesses. Definitely shout it out before I let you go.
Yeah, if you want to follow the progress of the bridge, or at some point if you want to live at a bridge or work, or whatever the case is, just subscribe to our website, our mailing list, which the website is very easy. It's just thebridge.com.
Good.
Go there and subscribe. If you want to get involved or like volunteer or something, look for the volunteer tab and click that on our website, and it'll give you a form. It'll fill out all your information when we have volunteer days. And
awesome.
Best part, like I said, just subscribe to the website, and we'll have investment opportunities that will be coming out at some point, donation opportunities, volunteer opportunities, all those things. So that's definitely the best way. And then our Instagram is _eco village. And you can also get to our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all from our website. All the socials are on there. If you scroll to the bottom, you can click on all of them and it'll take you straight there. So again, thebridge.com, and contact me through there. You can volunteer, you can donate, all those things. So
awesome. So that's the main website, thebridge.com. And it's great that'll just take you to all the social media platforms, because everyone loves social media. They'll probably be on that more than they are on any other website.
Hey, that's not a problem.
Become people's new website. Like,
until they shut down, then people don't know how to act.
What's that?
Until they shut down and have blackouts, and then people don't know how to act.
I know. And I think there was one, it's funny. What was it, like a few weeks ago, however long it was, didn't Facebook and Instagram go down for like an hour?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't, again, people can't rely on these things. There will be, I think, a global technical blackout, or cyber crime of some sort, and people just got to be careful because they don't want technology to be the Achilles heel of the world, and it can easily become that, like, and America's almost like businesses, just in general, as a country, everything, we've become so reliant on technology that it can literally become our Achilles heel if we get attacked in that way.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. I was going to go off on another tangent about Nikola Tesla and anodes and cathodes and how to create electricity with salt water, but maybe for another day. Well, yes, learning how to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
Is really important.
Super important. Yes, we should all go back to learning some primitive skills at some point, I think, honestly. Like that. What are those groups that they do for kids that I think is so important and they're underrated, like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts? Honestly, I think it's really great what they do. And I used to always be like, oh, they just sell cookies. I would never want to. Actually, they do. And the selling of the cookies is teaching them business. Like, when my young mind couldn't grasp that. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, okay. It's funny how much I actually did not know as a child. I think a lot of that is my mom didn't speak English. So, and then I hardly went to school before the age of 10. So I honestly, I was a pretty illiterate in every way possible child, even in Milton Hershey. Like I was able to hide it a lot. I think because I was able to just act like I bullshitted my way through a lot. But as an adult now, I'm like, God, my brain was never taught so many things. It's crazy. Like, I look at Chris and he's had a complete opposite upbringing as I did, and the things he knew at that age, like 12, 14, 8, all these ages, I'm like, man, I was at a loss, I have to say. And I don't blame my mom or anything. Like, she had it really rough. She didn't know any better. But now that I'm older, I'm like, God, it's no wonder I feel like these kids are so much smarter than I was, because I was even socially illiterate. I did not understand a lot of social things. And of course that was cultural too, but yeah. Teaching the kids these like emotional intelligence and the ideal of self-worth and self-talk and, mental prosperity at a young age is, reflection, self-reflection, being intuitive even for your own self. Like, all of these things I've never heard of as a child. And now I'm like, this is so important for my daughter to learn at such an early age. Beyond like the math and this, she'll get there. She's so smart already. She uses big words like literally and actually is her favorite word. She uses, and she's 4 and she's using all of these. Yesterday she said verses. She's like, this versus this. And I'm like, okay, and then she's like, literally, I felt like I'm like, oh, okay. Like she has that part. I think she's just naturally smart because Chris is very high IQ and now I'm smarter. But like that internal, a lot of the things that we don't talk about or we don't actively learn in school, those are the things I try to push for her even more.
Yeah.
Because she'll get to the other stuff. There's so many other external things that will teach her those things that she's already getting, obviously. But
well, I mean, our kids are literally supposed to be our replacement. So they're hopefully supposed to be better, smarter, more, emotionally astute, all those things.
Yeah.
But then you got parents who are Uncle Ricos and try and live the life that they didn't live through their kids' life and ruin their kids or, whatever else, the different traumas and
so damaging.
Hurting people.
Yes. So damaging to the kids. Like, this is their life. You've had your turn, you know what I mean? And you still have your turn. Tomorrow's always, life is not over for you, but the whole, having their kids live the life that they want or living through your kids is a big no. Yeah. Huge no for me. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, shoot, if Genesis don't want to play sports or whatever you want to do, whatever it is you choose to do, I'm gonna push you to be the greatest now.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you want to be ballet, you want to do physics, or spelling bees, we on it.
Yeah.
Flashcards, you want to be an athlete, bet we on this hill, we in the gym, like whatever you want.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The only
Like,
thing,
whatever she wants.
anything that's it. Unless my daughter's like cheerleading, then I'll probably, use some reverse psychology to kind of guide her away from that. But I know that's like the only thing I'm like, no, but
Plus some other things.
yeah, I'm like, I don't even know why I even still have that belief, because I just watched another documentary, which is so funny, called Cheer. And these girls are like, for me to have ever thought cheerleading was not an athletic sport, that documentary proved me so wrong. Like, and now I have her in gymnastics, which was another thing. Like, I would never put her in gymnastics so she could be in one of those bathing suits. And now I have her in gymnastics, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like, the level of discipline these girls have, like, unreal.
Yeah,
They're so strong. Yeah. So now I'm all about it. You want to cheer? As long as it's like a good cheer, not like something where you can really be competitive and not like just be, traveling with the basketball guys. Yeah. But again, all back to self-worth. I teach her the self-worth. I don't have to have these fears.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a phenomenal job. So
yeah, ditto. Yeah. Kudos to you and your wife. You guys are awesome. Doing great.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, you could tell. Yeah. Yeah. So I will let you go because I don't want to take up your entire day, because I feel like I already have. But thank you again so much. Everybody check out thebridge.com. Make sure you subscribe. Very, very important. And then follow on all social media platforms. Again, Garry Gilliam, founder of The Bridge. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're amazing. Your story is amazing. The Bridge concept is amazing. And I can't wait to see you grow internationally.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay dangerous. And by all means, let's build.
Let's build. That's right.